Rome begins on a single April day in 753 BCE, nothing more than a handful of huts by the Tiber, smoke curling from rough-hewn fires, the air heavy with river mist. And yet, in less than 8 centuries, that fragile cluster swells into the most incredible power the earth has ever carried. What began as a village grows into a republic, and then into an empire of stone. Its inventions shape not only its own citizens, but the world that follows: aqueducts carrying clean water across valleys, roads stretching more than 80,000 kilometers to bind provinces together, and written laws etched into bronze tablets, so even the poor might know their rights. Roman citizenship itself becomes a treasure, extended to outsiders, binding conquered peoples into something larger than tribe or kin. And elections, fragile, imperfect, but real, let men of the city have a voice in who commands them. But every marble arch casts a shadow. For all the wealth, there is hunger in the streets. For every road laid in stone, there are backs bent and broken to build it. 1 in 3 souls in Rome is enslaved, sold at markets like cattle, their lives spent in mines, quarries, or at the mercy of a master's whim. Women barter their bodies in alleyways for a crust of bread. Children steal and vanish. Debtors are chained until their families can pay. A slave might be crucified for spilling a cup of wine. A poor man might starve within sight of banquet halls, where senators gorge themselves. Life is cheap, and dignity cheaper still. Rome glitters, yes, but it glitters above a foundation of suffering. If you enjoy these stories, a like or a subscription means more than you think. It directly supports the channel and keeps these long journeys alive, and I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Where are you listening from, and what time is it there right now? Now settle deeper into your blankets. Let your breath slow, and together we'll slip into the journey. You open your eyes to soft light on a riverbank, April 21st, 753 BCE. The reeds hiss in the wind, and water licks the stones. Your skin is damp with river mist. You are small, impossibly small, an infant abandoned on the edge of the Tiber. Above you, vultures circle lazily, waiting. Your brother lies beside you, both of you left to die because a king fears prophecy. You don't know his name yet, Romulus, nor your own, Remus. Only the hunger in your belly and the cold of the river seep into your bones. The sound that saves you is not human. A growl, low and deep. Then a warm, rough tongue across your cheek. A she-wolf bends her great head over you. Her breath smells of raw meat and earth. You reach blindly, your hand tangling in coarse fur, and she accepts you as her own. Her heartbeat is a drum against your ear. In that moment, the story of Rome begins not in marble or iron, but in milk and fur and wildness. You grow in shadows, fed by an animal, then found by a shepherd and his wife. Their hut smells of wool and smoke. Nights are quiet except for the whistle of wind across the Palatine Hill. You and your brother learn to fight with sticks, to chase goats up the rocky slope, to watch the movements of men with suspicion. Whispers reach you of kings and bloodlines, of an inheritance stolen, of a destiny not yet fulfilled. One day you return, grown, armed, standing at the gates of Alba Longa. The city is heavy with incense, the stones older than memory. The king who ordered your deaths still sits upon the throne, but his voice falters when he sees your faces, mirrors of his own kin. A fight breaks, torches flaring, your sword rising, blood runs down marble steps, and when the dust clears, your grandfather is restored, your enemy is slain, and your brother are free. You dream of more than freedom. You dream of a city of your own. The hill where the wolf fed you calls like a heartbeat. There you and Remus mark the boundaries in dust. But pride sparks argument. Who will rule? Who will give the name? Anger twists to violence. And before you realize it, your hand is wet with your brother's blood. Silence swallows the hill. Rome begins in grief. Rome begins in fratricide, and still you cannot stop. You name the city for yourself. You invite outlaws, exiles, fugitives to fill its empty streets. Smoke rises from new hearths. The sound of hammers rings against stone. Rome is alive. But even life comes with hunger. There are no women enough to bear children, no future, unless you take it. So you send invitations to the Sabines, promise a festival, music, laughter, torches light the night, wine spills from jugs. And then a signal your men seize the women, pulling them screaming into Roman homes. The festival becomes a trap, and war follows like thunder. Yet in the chaos, something unexpected happens. The stolen women step between sword and shield, begging both fathers and husbands to stop. Their voices tremble, but the men obey. A treaty is struck, two peoples merging into one. Rome, once empty, now begins to swell. You stand at the edge of the Palatine Hill, smoke rising from hearths below. The Tiber glitters in moonlight. The city breathes with you, a fragile heartbeat made of blood and ash and chance. Your name already etches itself into time, Romulus. You wake to the scent of olive oil and ash. The year is roughly 600 BCE, nearly a century and a half since Romulus carved his city into being. Rome now breathes on its own, alive, restless, growing. The huts have multiplied into districts, the hills filled with families, temples, smoke from 1,000 fires drifting over the Tiber. But Rome is no longer a dream whispered by brothers. It is a monarchy held in the hands of kings. You walk among them, not rulers but ruled. The first kings are spoken of with awe. Numa Pompilius, 715–673 BCE, said to have built rituals to bind men together, teaching sacrifice and law. Tullus Hostilius, 673–642 BCE, fierce in battle, his name echoing with thunder. Ancus Marcius, 642–617 BCE, who builds bridges and docks, weaving Rome into the fabric of trade. Records suggest some were more legend than fact, their stories embroidered by centuries of retelling. Yet the shadows of their deeds linger, temples that still smell of incense, stones worn smooth by sandals long turned to dust. Your feet lead you to the edge of the Forum around 616 BCE, where crowds gather in the glare of noon. Merchants shout, coins clink, goats bleat in the dust. At the center stands a wooden platform where a herald names the king, Lucius Tarquinius Priscus, the first of the Etruscan line, tall, cloaked, his face lined by ambition. He rules with grandeur borrowed from the north. He orders drains cut through marshland, and the stench of stagnant water fades. He begins the Circus Maximus, where hooves thunder and crowds scream. You can almost hear it even now, the echo of chariots whipping the air. But power never rests quietly. Behind Priscus comes Servius Tullius, 578–535 BCE, a man of strange origin, perhaps born a slave, perhaps chosen by flame itself, for stories whisper that fire once circled his head without burning him. You wander through Rome's hills as he remakes the city's very bones. He counts men, organizes them into centuries, arranges them for war. He raises walls that bite into the soil, thick stone where once only mud stood, and he speaks of giving voice to more than the patrician few. New assemblies, new rights, a glimpse of power spread wider. Yet whispers turn to shouts. A king who reforms is a king who threatens. You feel the tension in the air like the heaviness before a storm. One morning in a narrow alley slick with spilled wine, voices rise. Servius is dragged down the stone steps of the Senate house, his body broken against the cobbles. His own daughter's husband, Lucius Tarquinius Superbus, claims the crown. Superbus, the proud, begins his reign in 535 BCE. His very name is a warning. You walk in his Rome and it feels different. Soldiers patrol with sharper eyes, their armor polished to blind. The poor mutter in corners, silenced by fear. He rules without consent, without patience, without mercy. The streets smell of sweat and blood from forced labor, as men are driven to build his temples, his fortresses. You glance toward the rising capital, its stones cut by calloused hands, its beauty fed by cruelty. And then the story curdles. It begins in the quiet of night, in the home of a noble woman named Lucretia. Her household smells of bread cooling on the hearth, of linen folded for rest. But her peace is shattered by Sextus, the king's son. He forces himself upon her, and when dawn comes, she gathers her kin. You stand among them in the chill morning air as she speaks, her voice steady though her hands tremble. She names her violator, names the shame forced upon her, and then with the dagger she holds against her breast, she ends her own life. The sound of her collapse is a silence deeper than thunder. Something breaks in Rome. Rage floods the streets. Enough. Brutus, nephew of the king, steps forward, his voice cutting through the chaos. He swears by Lucretia's blood that never again will Rome bow to kings. His words are fire, and you feel their heat in your own chest. The year is 509 BCE. The uprising begins not in grand arenas, but in back alleys and crowded markets. You smell smoke from torches, hear the scrape of swords drawn in secret. Farmers abandon fields to join the march. Smiths drop hammers to raise spears. The city boils, every stone echoing with fury. Superbus flees, but not before blood is spilled. His throne, his crown, his very title is torn apart. Kingship itself is cast out like refuse, spat upon in the dust of the forum. The monarchy collapses not with a single blow, but with 1,000 voices shouting at once. In its place, something fragile, something new. The word passes from mouth to mouth, res publica, the public thing. Instead of one king, there will be 2 consuls, chosen each year, bound by law and by rivalry. No man will hold unchecked power again, or so they believe. You stand in the forum at dusk, the air cooling, torches hissing in the wind. The first consuls are named Brutus and Collatinus. Their togas ripple as they step forward, not as monarchs but as servants of the people. The crowd erupts, a roar that rolls like thunder against the Capitoline hill. And yet, even as freedom is proclaimed, uncertainty gnaws at the edges. Superbus still lives, exiled but not destroyed, and whispers suggest he seeks allies among the Etruscans. His shadow lingers heavy as nightfall. The Republic has been born, but its cradle rocks on stormy ground. You exhale slowly, the chill air stinging your lungs. Rome has shed its kings, but in the silence after shouting you feel the weight of what comes next. A city without a master is also a city exposed, and you, standing in the dust, heart racing, are caught in the fragile dawn of the Republic. If you enjoy these stories, a like or a subscription means more than you think. It directly supports the channel and keeps these long journeys alive, and I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Where are you listening from and what time is it there right now? You wake with the dawn, the year 509 BCE, and the air tastes different. The word monarchy is already fading from Roman lips, spat out like a curse. Res publica, the public thing, has taken its place. Yet the streets are uneasy, as though the stones themselves are unsure of this new order. The forum glows with early sunlight, smoke curling from braziers as farmers crowd into the square. They look at the new consuls, Brutus and Collatinus, with a mix of hope and doubt. No kings, they say. Never again. But questions hang heavy. How long can 2 men share power before envy cuts between them? You press closer. Brutus' face is carved in resolve, eyes shadowed by grief. It was his own sons, records suggest, who plotted to restore Tarquinius Superbus, and it was Brutus himself who ordered their execution. Imagine the sound, rope tightening, bodies falling, a father's silence harder than any scream. Whether the story is entirely true or polished by later historians, it carries a truth deeper than fact. Rome will not forgive betrayal, even when it flows in bloodlines. Collatinus stands beside him, but his presence is fragile. The people murmur about his family ties to the disgraced king. Whispers spread like rot. Before long, he is pushed aside, exiled, replaced by Publius Valerius Publicola, who wins the crowd with promises of liberty. It is a reminder that freedom in Rome is not steady. It sways like a flame, fed by politics, starved by suspicion. The year turns, and with it, Rome's first challenges. Tarquinius Superbus has not vanished. He begs allies among the Etruscans, weaving his way into their courts, whispering of thrones and revenge. In 508 BCE, his supporters march with him toward Rome. You hear the distant thunder of hooves, smell iron in the air. The Battle of Lake Regillus follows, though accounts differ. Some speak of gods riding alongside the Romans, Castor and Pollux flashing across the field. Maybe legend, maybe not. What matters is the outcome. The Etruscan advance breaks, and the monarchy dies a little more that day. Rome survives, but the survival is fragile. The city trembles with division not only between exiles and citizens, but within its very soul, patricians against plebeians. The patricians, wealthy landowners, guardians of tradition, guard power in the Senate. The plebeians, farmers, craftsmen, soldiers, strain against invisible chains. Their voices echo in the streets. Why should they bleed for Rome, yet have no say in her laws? By 494 BCE, the tension snaps. You find yourself on the Aventine Hill, pressed among thousands of plebeians. They have walked away from the city, abandoned their fields and forges, their absence a wound in Rome's body. This is the first secessio plebis, a strike of existence itself. Rome cannot function without them. No farmers, no soldiers, no life. The Senate, desperate, negotiates. From this protest rises a new office, the tribune of the plebs, guardians elected to defend common people from patrician abuse. Their power is small at first, but their voices carry weight. For the first time, Rome bends toward balance. Still, the gap does not close. You walk past houses of patricians, their floors mosaic with coloured stone, their tables heavy with bread, olives, garum. Then you see the hovels of plebeians, smoky air, walls patched with mud, bellies empty at dusk. Their children play in dust. Their fathers return from war to find debts waiting sharper than spears. The need for order presses heavier each year. In 451 BCE, the demand grows too loud to ignore. The people want the law written down. No more whispered customs that only patricians can twist. You follow the crowd to the forum as 12 great bronze tablets are unveiled, their surfaces cut with Latin letters sharp as knives. The 12 tables, crude, harsh, but clear. An eye for an eye. A father may kill his malformed child. A debtor may be bound in chains. Some rules shock even you, but the principle matters. Now every citizen, patrician or plebeian can see the laws. Rome has stepped into transparency, though the light is cruel. Night falls, and you drift to the edge of the Subura, Rome's crowded quarter. The streets smell of smoke, urine, garlic, sweat. A boy runs past, clutching a stolen fig. A guard chases, torch flaring. In the shadows, a prostitute leans against a doorway, her bracelets jangling softly. This too is Rome, the darkness that laws cannot reach. You feel the tension of a society pulling itself apart and stitching itself together in the same breath. The decades roll, the city changes. By 390 BCE, you wake to fire again, this time not rebellion but invasion. The Gauls pour across the river after the disaster at the Battle of the Allia. Rome's defenders scatter, the gates swing wide. You stand amid chaos as houses burn, screams cut the air. Gold is piled into wagons for ransom. Some say Brennus, the Gallic leader, tossed his sword upon the scales and sneered, Vae victis, woe to the vanquished. Others claim the debt was never paid, that Camillus, recalled from exile, swept in to drive the invaders out. The truth wavers in the smoke. But the scars remain. Charred walls, rebuilt houses, a city that will never again trust its own safety. From ash rises determination. The Senate commands new fortifications, thicker walls, faster musters. The people whisper of destiny. Rome cannot fall so easily. Not if it is to command the world. The Republic, still young, begins to harden. Yet beneath the resilience lies exhaustion. The plebeians return to their fields, but debts crush them. Wars with neighbours drag on. Time and again they walk away from the city. Secessions repeated, each one forcing new concessions. Marriage between patricians and plebeians, legalized in 445 BCE. Plebeians permitted to hold office in later years. The long road toward equality paved not with generosity, but with protest. You sit at the edge of the forum, the sun setting red behind the Capitoline Hill. The air hums with tension. The Republic has survived its infancy, monarchy destroyed, laws written, invaders repelled. But the struggles are far from over. You feel it in your breath, in the restless shuffle of the crowd, in the way soldiers march past with armor scarred from endless battles. This is only the beginning. Rome's experiment in liberty is fragile, always threatened by enemies without and divisions within. And you, standing amid smoke and whispers, are swept into its fragile heartbeat, where freedom is never free, and survival is a war without end. You wake to the clang of bronze on bronze. The year is 451 BCE, and the forum smells of iron dust and sweat. The crowd presses tight. Thousands gathered to see the future of Rome hammered into permanence. 12 bronze tablets stand propped in the sun, letters freshly carved, sharp as blades. You step closer, your shadow stretching across their surface. At last, the law is no longer whispered, twisted by memory, or manipulated by patrician tongues. It is etched into metal for all to read, plebeian and patrician alike, the 12 tables. You trace the letters with your eyes. They are harsh, stripped of mercy. If a man summons another to court, he must go. If he refuses, he may be seized. A father has the right of life and death over his son. If a man is a debtor, he may be bound in chains. Some laws strike you like cold iron, others feel almost ordinary, small details of a world both familiar and foreign: funerals, restricted so women cannot wail too loudly, boundaries between fields fixed by stones, theft punished by repayment double the value. These fragments of daily life weave into a system that claims equality, but hides cruelty. You breathe in the metallic tang, feel the heat of the tablets radiating against your face. For the plebeians it is victory. At least now injustice is visible. For the patricians it is concession, one they give grudgingly. Historians later debate whether these tablets were truly fair or a cage disguised as law. But in this moment, the city feels different. For the first time, Rome knows itself in writing. The decades that follow are restless. You march with soldiers down the dusty Via Latina, your sandals slapping stone. Neighbours rise against Rome again and again. Volsci, Aequi, Sabines. Each time Rome sends legions into the hills, fighting for fields, for water, for pride. The land smells of trampled grass, blood drying on blades. Victory comes often, but at a price. Fields at home left unploughed, debts mounting, widows waiting at hearths that never see their husbands return. By 445 BCE, plebeians press harder. They demand the right to marry patricians. You hear the arguments echo in the Senate. Tradition must be preserved, blood kept pure. But hunger speaks louder than pride. Intermarriage is allowed. A small crack opens in the wall of privilege. You walk years later into the Campus Martius, where soldiers drill beneath the open sky. The sound of boots stamping the dust is steady as thunder. Rome is learning discipline, not only in war but in governance. New magistracies rise. Tribunes wield their veto. Censors count the people and judge their morals. The Republic stretches like a body discovering its strength. Still, The fear of collapse lingers. Around 390 BCE, it nearly comes true. You wake to flames once more. The Gauls have returned. At the Battle of the Alaia, Roman lines scatter, shields abandoned in the mud. You feel the panic as men flee toward the city. Women weep at open gates. Children huddle in corners of temples. Brennus and his warriors pour into the streets, their hair lime-washed, their throats howling war cries. The smell of burning timber chokes the air. Historians disagree on what follows. Some say a ransom of gold was paid, scales tipped by the Gauls' cheating weights. Brennus sneering, Vae victis, woe to the vanquished. Others claim Camillus, called back from exile, swept in like a saviour, driving the invaders away before payment could be made. You cannot know which is true. You only feel the ash under your feet, the silence after slaughter. The memory scars Rome. Walls rise thicker, defences harden. The city whispers of destiny not as hope but as necessity. Never again must Rome fall so low. In the wake of fire, Rome learns resilience. You stand by the Tiber as new recruits drill, their shields gleaming. Debt laws soften slightly under plebeian protest, though chains still rattle in alleyways for those who cannot pay. Another secession comes in 367 BCE. Forcing more concessions, plebeians gain the right to hold the consulship. For the first time, a poor man may dream not only of survival but of leadership. The Republic shifts, balances, trembles. Its rhythm is constant protest, constant compromise. You feel it in the air like the beat of a drum. Patricians clinging to power, plebeians clawing for more. By 343 BCE, a new sound rises, the clatter of armour against rocky paths, the echo of voices in mountain passes. The Samnite Wars begin. Rome turns its eyes south, toward the rugged hills where Samnite warriors move like shadows among peaks. You march with the legion, breath ragged in the thin mountain air. The roads are steep, the sun relentless, the enemy unseen until their spears rain from above. In the narrow Caudine forks you find yourself trapped. The Samnites close in without a fight, their leader Pontius holding Rome's army in his grasp. You walk in silence as soldiers are forced to pass beneath the yoke, spears fixed to form a humiliating arch. The shame burns hotter than any wound. Men avert their eyes, their shields hang low. Rome bleeds pride that day. But humiliation is only fuel. Years stretch into decades of war, 343 to 290 BCE, battles fought on ridges and plains, in rain and in scorching sun. You hear the cries of victory at last. The Samnites bent but not broken. Rome expands, takes their lands, builds colonies, plants her standard deeper into Italy. Back in the city, the Forum is busier than ever. Merchants unload amphorae of wine, bundles of wool, grain from conquered fields. Senators argue beneath the basilicas, their words sharp as blades. Plebeians still push for rights, and slowly, step by step, they claim them. By the mid-4th century, Rome is no longer a fragile republic. It is a rising power, restless, determined, relentless. You sit at dusk on the Palatine Hill watching the sun sink over the Tiber. The air is heavy with wood smoke and ambition. You feel the heartbeat of the Republic, uneven, strained but growing stronger. Laws carved in bronze, victories carved in memory, scars carved in flesh. Rome is no longer a city of huts. It is a republic forged by struggle, hardened by fire, and hungry for more. The night settles. Somewhere below, a child plays in the dust, tracing with a stick the outline of walls yet to be built. His laughter carries into the dark, a fleeting reminder that beneath all the weight of history, Rome is still young. The year is 390 BCE, and the horizon glows red. The sound is not distant thunder, but war cries rolling over the hills. The Gauls are here. The sun rises over the river Alaia, and you stand among Roman lines. The ground is damp, the grass heavy with morning dew, shields rattle in nervous hands, helmets tilt on sweating brows. The army is stretched too thin, spread wide across the field, as if numbers alone can hold back disaster. You taste fear in your mouth, bitter as iron. From the north, the Senones come, tall, wild-haired, their bodies painted, their swords long and heavy. They charge with a roar that cracks the morning air. The clash is sudden, brutal. You hear the snap of shields, the tearing of flesh, the thud of sandals slipping in mud. It lasts only moments before panic takes root. The Roman line buckles, then breaks. Soldiers scatter, running for the Tiber, dropping shields as they go. Some plunge into the water, weighed down by armour, their cries muffled by the current. Others flee toward the city, their breath ragged, their shame heavier than any wound. By nightfall, the gates of Rome are open. Families grab what they can. A cloak, a jug of grain, a child pulled by the wrist, and flee toward the safety of the Capitoline Hill. You run with them, your lungs burning, the air thick with smoke and fear. Behind you, the Gauls pour into the city like a flood. Streets once filled with merchants and chatter are now filled with fire. Roofs collapse. Sparks hiss into the night sky. The smell is unforgettable. Burning wood, charred flesh, hot metal. The silence between screams is worse than the screams themselves. Some say the Romans who remained climbed the Capitoline, fortifying the hilltop, while priests carried sacred relics away for safekeeping. Others say most of the city was abandoned, left to the mercy of the invaders. Historians disagree, but you only know the sound of hoofbeats in empty streets, the crackle of flames, the despair of a city brought to its knees. Days blur into weeks. Hunger claws at your stomach as the siege drags on. The Gauls wait, their campfires glowing beyond the walls. Inside, Rome starves. Bread is gone, wine thins with water. Rats scurry too fast to catch. At night, you hear whispers of surrender. Finally, a bargain is struck. Gold, 1,000 pounds of it, piled onto scales to buy the city's freedom. You watch as the Gauls weigh it. Their laughter harsh. The Romans protest the weights are rigged, uneven. Brennus, their leader, throws his sword onto the scales with a sneer. Vae victis. Woe to the vanquished. Perhaps it happened that way. Perhaps not. Livy claims that Marcus Furius Camillus returned from exile at that very moment, leading an army to drive the Gauls away before the ransom was paid. Rome is ransomed not with gold but with steel, he is said to have declared. The truth is lost in ash and smoke. What remains is the memory of humiliation. When the Gauls finally withdraw, you step into ruins. The air still smells of ash, walls blackened, temples gutted, streets silent. Rome is alive, but barely. The Republic survives, yet something inside has changed. You feel it as you walk the empty alleys. Shame, yes, but also resolve. Never again. In the years after, the city hardens. You watch new walls rise. The Servian Wall, thick stone biting into the earth, enclosing the hills like a shield of rock. Quarries echo with the ring of chisels, oxen groan under loads of stone. The wall is not just defence, it is memory, a scar carved into the land. You see the army change too. No longer a mob of farmers hastily gathered. It becomes a machine of discipline. Shields are heavier, formations tighter, officers stricter. Rome learns from defeat, the way others learn from victory. Yet scars linger. At night in the Subura, children whisper of Gauls, of painted faces and flaming torches. Old men shake their heads, muttering that the gods punished Rome for arrogance. Even decades later, when the fields grow green again and houses rise from rubble, the fear lingers like a shadow. The Republic presses outward still, restless. Neighbours test Rome's wounds. Etruscans raid from the north, Volsi from the south. Each time Rome answers with steel. You march with legions through fields once scarred by Gauls, now trampled again by Roman feet. Victories come slowly, but they come. Rome grows stronger, not despite the sack, but because of it. By 358 BCE, Rome forges peace with the Latin League, allies bound more by fear of new invasions than by love of Rome itself. You watch as treaties are signed, words cut into bronze, hands clasped in uneasy unity. Rome, once humiliated, now stands as leader among its neighbours. But peace is never permanent. In 340 BCE, the Latin war erupts. You hear the horns of battle echo again, see the shimmer of spears under the sun. Rome defeats its former allies, absorbing them into its orbit. Some cities gain citizenship, others partial rights, all tied to Rome's rising star. The Republic is no longer fragile. The memory of fire still burns in its mind, but now it fuels ambition. You see it in the way senators speak in the forum, their voices sharp, their gestures commanding. You hear it in the tramp of soldiers drilling outside the city, their rhythm steady as heartbeat. You feel it in the stones of the Servian wall, rough under your hand, a promise carved into the earth. At dusk you climb the Capitoline Hill. Below, the city sprawls, rebuilt, fortified, hungry. Smoke rises from hearths. The Tiber glitters red in the fading sun. You remember the night it burned, the screams, the flames, but now the air carries a different sound. Hammers striking, children laughing, the murmur of markets alive once more. Rome has survived its trial by fire, and from its ashes, something harder, sharper, more relentless has been born. You exhale into the night, the cool air settling in your lungs, and know the Republic will not stop here. You wake with the weight of armor on your shoulders. The year is 343 BCE, and Rome's eyes turn south to the rugged mountains where the Samnites dwell. The land is harsh, ridges rising like broken teeth, valleys hidden in mist. Here in the Apennines war waits. The Samnites are fierce, mountain warriors who move like shadows over stone, their sandals gripping the rock, their javelins flashing in the sun. You march with the legion into narrow passes, your breath shallow in the thin air. The clatter of shields echoes against cliffs, a sound that seems too loud, too clumsy. Every rustle of grass could hide an ambush. The First Samnite War begins not from hatred but from allies. Capua, a wealthy Campanian city, begs for help against Samnite raids. Rome answers, eager for influence, eager for glory. You watch as senators declare war, their togas bright in the forum, their voices sharp with ambition. In battle, the Samnites strike hard, their warriors rush downhill, spears gleaming, shields painted with strange symbols. For a moment Rome stumbles, but discipline holds. The legions regroup, lines tighten, swords thrust in unison. Victory comes, enough for Rome to taste triumph. After only a few years, treaties are signed, allies reshuffled, the war ends as quickly as it began. But peace never lasts. By 326 BCE, Rome is drawn back into Samnite lands. The Second Samnite War ignites, fiercer and longer than the first. You feel it in your bones as you march deeper into their territory. The air colder, the paths narrow, the enemy always unseen until it is too late. It is in 321 BCE that humiliation strikes. You are trapped in the Caudine Forks, a narrow valley, hills rising steep on both sides. The Samnites block the exits, their spears gleaming above. No battle is fought, no sword is raised. The Roman army is surrounded, helpless. Pontius, the Samnite commander, spares blood but takes pride. One by one, Roman soldiers are forced to march beneath the yoke, 2 spears fixed upright, one across. A humiliating arch. You walk slowly, your head bowed, your shield lowered. The silence is worse than any jeer. Pride bleeds from you like water from a broken jar. The shame burns deep. Back in Rome, senators sit in silence, their faces pale. Some argue to break the treaty forced upon them. Others whisper that dishonor is worse than defeat. In taverns and markets, plebeians mutter that the Republic has lost its strength, but humiliation becomes fuel. Rome does not forget. Years stretch on. You fight skirmishes in rocky passes, stand knee-deep in streams where blood runs with water, march until your sandals split on stone. The Samnites are relentless, but so are you. Rome adapts. Tactics shift. The Manipular Legion takes shape. Small units that can move and bend like the mountain tribes they fight. No longer a rigid block, the Legion becomes a living thing, flexible, fierce. By 316 BCE, Rome pushes back. By 304 BCE, the Second Samnite War ends in Roman favour. Cities fall, treaties signed, colonies planted on captured lands. You watch settlers drive stakes into soil, their houses rising where Samnite villages once stood. Smoke from Roman hearths replaces Samnite fires. But even this is not the end. The Third Samnite War begins in 298 BCE, and this time the stakes are higher. Allies shift like sand. Etruscans, Umbrians, even Gallic tribes join the Samnites against Rome. You stand on the field at Sentinum in 295 BCE, the greatest clash yet. Dust rises as tens of thousands face one another, the sun burning white overhead. The Gallic war chariots thunder forward, wheels biting into the earth, horses screaming. You smell sweat and fear as they crash into Roman lines. For a moment, chaos reigns. The ground shakes, men scream, shields shatter, but Rome holds. Decimus Mus, a consul, rides forward, his face calm, his eyes bright. He performs the devotio, a sacred oath of self-sacrifice. He charges into the enemy, offering his life to the gods for Rome's victory. His death is brutal, but his courage ignites the legion. The Romans surge, pushing back, turning chaos into triumph. When the dust settles, the Samnites and their allies lie broken. The Third Samnite War drags on a few more years, but the tide has turned. By 290 BCE, Rome stands victorious. The Apennines are no longer a barrier. The Italian peninsula bends toward Roman control. You return to Rome, your armor dented, your sandals torn, your heart heavy with memories of mountain battles. Yet the city is alive with triumph. The forum buzzes, merchants shouting, senators boasting, plebeians cheering. Temples rise in thanks to the gods. Sacrifices stain the altars red. And beneath it all, you feel the change. Rome is no longer just a city fighting for survival. It has become the master of Italy. Allies are bound by treaties, colonies planted like seeds, roads stretching farther each year. The Republic grows not only in size but in hunger. Still, scars remain. You remember the yoke at Caudine Forks, the silence of humiliation. Rome remembers too. Perhaps that is why victory tastes so sharp, because it was once ash in the mouth. As night falls, you sit on the Palatine Hill. Below, torches flicker in the streets, voices carry in the warm summer air. The Tiber glimmers silver under the moon. You breathe deep, the scent of olive oil, smoke and ambition filling your chest. The Samnite wars are over, but you know in your bones Rome's wars will never end. You wake to the sound of waves against stone. The year is 280 BCE, and you stand on the southern shores of Italy. The Greek city of Tarentum gleams white in the sun, its temples facing the sea, its people proud of their Hellenic blood. Yet pride alone cannot shield it from Rome. The Tarentines, fearing Roman encroachment, have called for aid across the sea. And aid comes not from Athens, not from Sparta, but from Epirus. Pyrrhus, their king, sails with an army across the Ionian waves, his ships creaking, his elephants swaying in the holds. You hear the groan of timbers as they make landfall. See the strange beasts lumbering onto Italian soil, their tusks painted, their hides draped with cloth. The Romans have never seen such creatures. Even their bravest soldiers whisper in awe. Pyrrhus is a man of legend already, cousin to Alexander the Great. a warrior with ambitions as vast as the horizon. He dreams not only of saving Tarentum, but of forging an empire of his own, stretching from Greece to Italy, maybe even to Sicily. His eyes gleam with calculation, his voice rings with command. When he marches, you feel the weight of history shift. The first clash comes at Heraclea, in 280 BCE. You stand in the dust of the plain, the sun beating on your helmet. Roman legions face Greek phalanxes, long spears bristling like a wall of iron. For hours the battle sways. Romans pressing, Greeks resisting, shields shattering, spears splintering. The ground shakes when the elephants are driven forward, their trumpets shrieking, their massive feet crushing men beneath them. Horses rear, soldiers scatter. The Romans, unprepared for such monsters, falter. Victory belongs to Pyrrhus. But victory has its price. Thousands lie dead, Roman and Greek alike. Pyrrhus walks the field at dusk, his cloak heavy with dust, his face shadowed. He has won, yet his heart is not light. The Romans, unlike other foes, do not beg for peace. They retreat, regroup, and prepare to fight again. You sense his unease. He has struck a lion, but the lion is not slain. The following year, 279 BCE, the armies meet again at Asculum. The fields are green with spring, birds startled into flight by the clash of shields. Again the elephants thunder forward, again the Roman lines bend. At last Pyrrhus claims another victory, yet as he surveys the carnage, he utters words that echo through centuries. If we are victorious in one more battle with the Romans, we shall be utterly ruined. A Pyrrhic victory, success so costly it is indistinguishable from defeat. You feel it in the weary faces of his soldiers, in the blood-soaked earth, in the hollow cheers of allies. Rome loses men, yes, but Rome can replace them. Pyrrhus loses men he cannot. His best warriors, his finest generals fall. His elephants, once terrifying, die beneath Roman spears. The balance tilts slowly, inexorably. By 278 BCE, Pyrrhus shifts his gaze. Sicily calls. The Greek cities there beg for his aid against Carthage. He sails across the sea, his ships cutting through waves, his elephants once again swaying in the holds. In Syracuse, crowds cheer his arrival, hailing him as a saviour. You walk the marble streets with him, hear the songs sung in his honour, smell the incense burning at his triumphal feasts. For a time he drives Carthage back. His armies sweep across the island, his name spreading like fire. But power breeds suspicion. The Sicilian Greeks grow weary of his rule, muttering that he demands too much, takes too much, gives too little. The cheers fade into whispers, and soon into curses. By 276 BCE, Pyrrhus returns to Italy, his dreams of empire frayed. Rome waits. At Beneventum in 275 BCE, the last great clash unfolds. The elephants charge, but this time the Romans are ready. Trumpets blare, startling the beasts, sending them crashing into their own ranks. Confusion ripples, and the Roman legions surge forward. Dust blinds your eyes, iron rings in your ears. The ground shakes with the rhythm of men and beasts alike. When the battle ends, Rome stands victorious. Pyrrhus, defeated, retreats. His ambition broken, his soldiers weary, he sails back across the sea, in Epirus. Years later he meets his end, not in a grand battle but in the narrow streets of Argos, struck by a roof tile hurled by an old woman, a life of conquest undone by a moment of chance. But his shadow lingers. For the Romans, the wars with Pyrrhus are a turning point. They have faced the greatest general of the Greek world, and they have endured. They have seen elephants and lived. They have suffered defeat and risen again. Rome learns that it cannot be broken by loss, only hardened. By 272 BCE, Tarentum falls. The Greek cities of Italy bow, their walls scarred, their pride subdued. The peninsula is Rome's, from the Apennines to the southern seas. Italy is bound under the Republic's hand. You walk the Forum on a spring morning, the air sharp with the scent of laurel wreaths and roasting meat. Senators boast of conquest. Generals parade their spoils. Plebeians cheer in crowded streets. Yet beneath the triumph lies hunger for more. You feel it in the restless murmur of the crowd, in the way merchants talk of Sicily, of Carthage, of lands across the sea. Rome has won Italy, but Italy is not enough. At dusk, you climb the Capitoline Hill. The city glows beneath you, torches flickering, voices rising in celebration. The Tiber glitters dark in the fading light. You close your eyes and hear the echoes of elephants, the cries of dying men, the weary words of Pyrrhus. Rome has survived him, and in surviving has become something more. The Republic is ready for its next enemy, and across the sea in the harbours of Carthage that enemy is already watching. You wake to the smell of salt and pine. The year is 264 BCE, and the sea lies before you, vast, glittering, restless. Until now, Rome has been a power of land, its armies marching over mountains and plains. But now the Republic gazes across the water, towards Sicily. The island is a prize of unimaginable worth. Its fields grow grain enough to feed nations. Its harbours open paths to Africa and Greece. Its cities gleam with temples and markets. Yet Sicily is not empty. It belongs to Carthage, mistress of the seas, her sails casting shadows across the Mediterranean. It begins in the city of Messana. The Mamertines, mercenaries who seized the town, call for Rome's help against Syracuse and Carthage. Senators in the Forum argue for days, their voices rising above the clamour of the crowd. Some warn that war across the sea is folly, that Rome's strength lies on land. Others whisper of grain, of silver, of glory. In the end, ambition wins. You march with legions onto ships, timbers creaking beneath your feet, the air thick with tar and sweat. For the first time, Rome crosses the sea not as a guest, but as a conqueror. The first campaigns are fought on land. Syracuse is besieged, its walls high, its harbour crowded with ships. You climb ladders against stone, hear boiling oil spill from the parapets, feel arrows hiss past your cheek. In time the city bows, not destroyed but bound to Rome. Carthage, furious, tightens its grip on the rest of the island. Yet Sicily cannot be won without ships. You see Carthage's fleet darken the horizon. Tall masts, sleek hulls, sails catching the wind like wings. Their sailors move with ease, veterans of centuries at sea. Rome has no such skill, no tradition of naval might. The Senate decrees a fleet must be built. And so forests fall, axes bite deep, saws shriek, hammers ring. In weeks, shipyards transform the Tiber into a cradle of war. A single captured Carthaginian vessel becomes the model. Plank for plank, nail for nail, Rome copies it, but adds something new. The Corvus, a boarding bridge tipped with iron, designed to turn sea battles into land battles. You stand on deck as the first trial unfolds. The enemy surges close, their ships sleek, their sailors mocking. Then, crash! The Corvus slams down, spikes biting into wood. Roman soldiers flood across, swords flashing. The sea becomes a battlefield of discipline, and Carthage recoils. At Mylae in 260 BCE, you taste the first true naval triumph. The Corvus clatters again and again, enemy ships seized, crews cut down. Gaius Duilius, Rome's commander, returns home to a parade lined with torches, the smell of roasted meat in the air, garlands thrown at his feet. But victory does not come cheaply. At Capecnomus in 256 BCE, the greatest naval battle yet seen in the ancient world, hundreds of ships clash. You hear the roar of rams striking hulls, the crack of wood, the screams of men dragged into waves. The sea turns red, foam flecked with bodies. Rome wins, but thousands never see home again. The war spreads to Africa. You march on African soil, the sand hot beneath your sandals, the sun merciless. For a moment, Rome dreams of ending Carthage itself. Villages burn, fields are trampled, elephants trumpet in fear. But dreams die at Bagradas, where Carthaginian cavalry and elephants shatter Roman lines. Survivors stumble back to the coast, their faces black with dust, their throats dry with thirst. The retreat is worse than the battle. You crowd aboard ships, but storms rise, and the sea swallows thousands. The cries of drowning men vanish beneath the thunder of waves. Sicily groans under the weight of endless war. You walk its roads and smell smoke in every valley, hear weeping in every village. Fields lie fallow, vines rot on the stalk. Farmers are dragged into armies, their families left to hunger. Children scavenge for scraps, while soldiers sleep on cold ground, their cloaks stiff with sweat and salt. Carthage answers with cunning. At Drepana in 249 BCE, the Roman fleet suffers disaster. You are there when ships crowd the harbour, tangled, unable to maneuver. Carthaginian rams crash through hulls, oars splinter, sails burn. The sea is filled with wreckage, men clinging to planks, their screams lost in wind and water. It is humiliation, and Rome tastes salt and ash once more. Storms strike again, wrecking fleets, tearing down hopes. The people grow weary, taxes rise, merchants groan, widows wail. For years the war drags on, a grinding wheel of loss and gain, victory and disaster. And yet, Rome does not yield. Even broken fleets are rebuilt. Even when coffers empty, private citizens contribute wealth, building ships from their own fortunes. The Republic endures, fueled by stubbornness as much as strategy. At last, in 241 BCE, the tide turns. You stand on the deck of a Roman ship near the Agates Islands. The wind is sharp, the sea restless. Carthaginian ships approach, heavy with supplies. Roman crews, drilled and desperate, hold their course. The clash is brutal, rams striking, corvée slamming down, men surging across decks. The air is filled with the clang of steel, the cries of the wounded, the spray of salt and blood. When it ends, Carthage's fleet lies broken. The sea is littered with shattered masts, floating corpses, wreckage drifting on waves. The Treaty of Lutatius follows. Carthage surrenders Sicily, the first Roman province beyond Italy. Silver flows into Rome's coffers, vast indemnities draining Carthage's strength. You return to Rome, your armour rusted with salt, your skin burned by years of war. The city celebrates with torches, wine, sacrifices. The people roar with triumph. Yet beneath the cheers lies exhaustion. 23 years of war have scarred Rome. Sons have grown old in battle. Fathers have died. Children never known peace. You stand on the Capitoline Hill at dusk. The air smells of laurel and smoke, victory and unease. Rome has tasted the sea, and she will never turn back. The Republic has discovered a hunger beyond land, a hunger no treaty can satisfy. Carthage, humiliated, watches from across the waves. Her pride is broken but not destroyed. You sense it in the wind, in the restless murmur of senators, in the whispers of merchants. The war is over, but the rivalry is not. Rome has won Sicily, and in winning it has discovered its destiny. If you enjoy these stories, a like or a subscription means more than you think. It directly supports the channel and keeps these long journeys alive. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Where are you listening from, and what time is it there right now? You wake to the creak of leather straps and the snort of animals. The year is 218 BCE, and far from Rome in the hills of Spain, a young Carthaginian commander prepares for war. His name is Hannibal Barca, son of Hamilcar, raised with hatred of Rome poured into him like milk. Stories say he swore as a boy, before the gods themselves, that he would never be a friend to the Republic. Now, at the head of his army, he moves like a storm. Tens of thousands of men march under his banner, Iberian warriors with painted shields, Libyan veterans hardened by desert sun, cavalry swift as shadows, and beasts Rome has only half forgotten. War elephants, their tusks sharpened, their bulk looming. The air smells of sweat, of oil on leather, of determination. You feel the tremor in the ground as Hannibal chooses the unthinkable to bring the war into Italy itself. He leads his army north, across rivers, across the mountains, into the heart of danger. The Alps loom ahead, jagged peaks stabbing the sky. Snow blinds the eyes, ice cracks beneath sandals. Men slip into chasms and vanish. Horses scream, elephants stumble, men curse the cold. For 15 days the army claws its way across. When at last they emerge, they are ragged, starving, bleeding, but alive. And with them comes terror. Rome reels. No enemy has crossed into Italy in living memory, yet here Hannibal stands, in the Po Valley, the mountains at his back, the Republic before him. The first clash comes at the Trebia River in 218 BCE. Dawn is bitter cold, mist curling from the water. Roman soldiers wade through icy currents, their limbs heavy, their breaths ragged. Then Hannibal's ambush strikes, cavalry crashing from the flanks, hidden troops surging from reeds. The Romans are cut down, their cries swallowed by fog. Hannibal's victory is swift, merciless. Months later, in 217 BCE, it happens again. At Lake Trasimene, the morning is veiled in mist. You march with the legion along the shore. The lake silver and still. Then horns sound from the hills. Rocks roll, spears fly. Carthaginians descend like a flood. The Roman line collapses, trapped between water and steel. Thousands die, many driven into the lake, their armor dragging them beneath the waves. It is slaughter, not battle. Rome trembles. In the forum, voices waver, faces pale. Fear seeps into every street, every hearth. Yet still, the Republic refuses peace. The Senate appoints Fabius Maximus dictator, the man who will not fight but will follow. His strategy is patience, shadowing Hannibal, cutting his supplies, refusing open battle. The people mock him as cunctator, the delayer, but his caution buys Rome time. Hannibal, relentless, pushes deeper. His elephants die one by one, but his will does not falter. Allies in the south flock to him, weary of Roman rule. The Republic stands alone, bleeding, and then the greatest disaster yet. It is the summer of 216 BCE, at the town of Cannae. The plain stretches wide beneath the burning sun. You stand among nearly 80,000 Romans, the largest army the Republic has ever fielded. Confidence hums in the air. Numbers seem a shield. Across from you, Hannibal commands half as many, yet he smiles. The battle begins with dust, with shouting, with the clash of shields. Hannibal's line bends inward, a crescent folding under Roman pressure. You push forward, sure of victory, but then the trap snaps shut. Carthaginian cavalry smash the flanks. Infantry closes from behind. You are trapped in a circle of steel, crushed against comrades, unable to lift your arm to strike. Panic rises, the air thick with screams and blood. By nightfall, as many as 50,000 Romans lie dead. The plain is carpeted with bodies, the air rank with blood and dust. Rome wails. Mothers cry in the streets, fathers sit silent, heads in hands. The Republic seems broken. Allies defect to Hannibal. Southern Italy sways toward Carthage. Some whisper of surrender, but the Senate forbids it. No embassy of peace is sent, no word of concession spoken. Rome will not yield. Years pass. Hannibal roams Italy, undefeated in open battle, yet never striking Rome itself. His supplies thin, his reinforcements never come. Carthage, cautious and divided, leaves him stranded. Slowly the tide shifts. Rome, stubborn and patient, claws back. Cities are retaken, allies wooed, resources gathered. By 211 BCE, Hannibal's hold weakens. His brother Hasdrubal marches from Spain to aid him, but is slain at the Metaurus in 207 BCE. His head is thrown into Hannibal's camp. A grotesque message, the dream of reinforcement dies with it. Rome grows bold. In 204 BCE, you march not in Italy but across the sea. Publius Cornelius Scipio, young and ambitious, leads the legions into Africa. The air smells of dust and olives, the sun fierce on your back. Battles rage across Carthaginian fields. Allies shift. Kings of Numidia join Rome. Carthage, desperate, recalls Hannibal. The year is 202 BCE. At Zama on the plains of Africa, the two greatest commanders of their age meet. Hannibal stands with his elephants, his veterans scarred by decades of war. Scipio faces him with fresh legions, his cavalry bolstered by Numidian allies. The elephants charge, but Roman trumpets blare, startling them. They veer into their own men, chaos ripping through Carthaginian lines. Rome surges forward, discipline unbroken. Hannibal fights with brilliance, but the weight of exhaustion presses on his army. At last Scipio's cavalry sweeps behind, crushing Carthage between hammer and anvil. The battle is over. Carthage is broken. Hannibal flees, his dream shattered. Scipio earns a new name, Africanus. The peace is harsh. Carthage surrenders its fleet, pays mountains of silver, bows to Rome's will. The Republic celebrates, but the cost has been immense. Hundreds of thousands dead, Italy scarred, farms abandoned, cities burned. Rome has survived by endurance, not ease. You return to the city, your body weary, your mind haunted. Yet the Forum roars with triumph. Statues are raised, sacrifices made, songs sung. Rome has faced her greatest enemy and lived. At dusk, you stand on the Capitoline Hill. The city glows with torchlight, voices rising in victory, but you feel something deeper, a shift in destiny. Rome has proven that no enemy can break her, not even Hannibal, not even the gods. The Republic stands, and now nothing seems beyond its grasp. You wake to the dry heat of Africa. The year is 149 BCE, and the smell of salt and dust drifts in from the sea. Before you, the walls of Carthage rise, tall, massive, unbroken. For decades, the city has lingered under Rome's shadow, stripped of empire after Hannibal's defeat, forbidden to wage war without Rome's permission. Yet Carthage still lives, her harbours busy, her markets rich. To some in Rome, that life alone is threat enough. You hear the voice of Cato the Elder, echoing in the Senate. Carthago Delenda estimated, Carthage must be destroyed. He ends every speech with the words, no matter the topic, grain or taxes, roads or harvests. The refrain returns like a drumbeat. Carthage must fall. The pretext comes when Carthage raises arms against Numidian raids, breaking the treaty forbidding her to fight without Rome's leave. In the Forum, senators nod grimly. Rome has its excuse. Legions are summoned, fleets prepared, supplies gathered. The Republic marches south. You stand on African soil as 3 Roman armies land near Utica, the coast shimmering under the sun. Carthaginian envoys meet them with olive branches, desperate for peace. They offer hostages, surrender weapons, bend to demands. The Romans take thousands of shields, hundreds of catapults, cartloads of spears, yet the Senate's appetite is not sated. A final demand arrives: abandon Carthage itself, burn the city, move inland, begin anew, far from the sea. The envoys return with the news. In Carthage, silence falls, then erupts into fury. Mothers clutch their children, soldiers grip swords, elders weep. Whatever they have surrendered, it is not enough. Now they understand, Rome will accept nothing less than their extinction. And so, with trembling hands, they sharpen blades, melt gold into weapons, chain their slaves for war. Even women weave ropes for catapults. Even children carry stones to the walls. The city, cornered, chooses to fight. the siege begins. You walk beneath the massive walls, 3 lines deep, towers rising 30 meters, bristling with defenders. Roman catapults hurl stones, battering rams pound gates, ladders scrape against stone. But the Carthaginians resist with fire and steel. Pitch cascades, torches fly, boiling oil spills onto Roman helmets. The air reeks of smoke and burned flesh. For months, the struggle drags on. Streets echo with hunger. Inside Carthage, the people starve. Bread shrinks to crusts. Rats vanish into pots. Weeds are pulled from cracks in stone. Yet still the city holds. At night you hear hymns from temples, voices rising to Bel El and Tanit, prayers desperate and raw. The years crawl by. Roman commanders falter. Armies fail to break through. Then, in 147 BCE, a new consul takes command, Scipio Aemilianus, grandson by adoption of Scipio Africanus, Hannibal's conqueror. He walks through the camp, his gaze cold, his standards carried high. Soldiers straighten at his presence. Discipline sharpens. Where others stumbled, he resolves to end it. Scipio begins by tightening the noose. Carthage is cut off from the sea, her harbours blocked. Roman ships patrol day and night, sails blotting the horizon. The city chokes, its people gaunt, their skin stretched tight over bones, yet their eyes burn with defiance. When Scipio strikes, it is with precision. Roman troops scale the walls under cover of darkness, storming the harbour district. You rush with them through narrow alleys, the smell of fish and smoke heavy in your nose. Carthaginian defenders fight from rooftops, stones and spears raining down. Step by step, house by house, the Romans advance. Walls are breached, streets run red, screams echo against stone. At last, in 146 BCE, the final assault begins. You walk with Scipio through the breach, into a city on fire. Carthage resists to the last breath. Men, women, even children fight in the streets. Temples burn, statues topple, houses collapse. The roar of battle merges with the roar of flames. For 6 days, Rome grinds Carthage into dust, street by street, building by building. The legions advance. The cries of the dying fill the air, sharp, endless, inescapable. On the 7th day, the Bursa, the citadel, falls. Survivors are dragged into the forum, chains biting their wrists. 50,000 men, women, and children march into slavery. You stand on the blackened ground as Scipio surveys the ruin. Flames crackle, ash drifts. The smell of burning flesh clings to your clothes. He weeps, they say, not from pity alone, but from a vision of the future, that one day even Rome might fall as Carthage has. When the fires die, the city is gone, its walls levelled, its harbours filled with rubble, its land cursed in Roman memory. Carthage, once queen of the sea, exists only as shadow. The Republic celebrates. Triumphs thunder through Rome's streets, spoils paraded, sacrifices offered. Sicily, Sardinia, Corsica, and now Africa itself. Rome's provinces multiply, her reach stretching across seas. Merchants grow rich, senators prouder, generals more ambitious. Yet you feel the unease beneath the triumph. The war has shown the Senate's cruelty, its hunger. Carthage was no longer a rival, only a threat in the imagination of Rome. Its destruction is not survival, but conquest, and conquest breeds more conquest. You walk the forum at dusk, torches flickering, smoke from sacrifices curling into the sky. The people cheer, but their voices carry an edge, a hunger for more. Spain, Greece, the East, the names are whispered like promises. From the Capitoline you gaze down at the city. The Tiber glimmers, the temples glow, the air hums with ambition. Carthage is ash, Hannibal only memory. Rome stands unmatched. Yet as you breathe, you remember Scipio's tears, his vision in the smoke. All empires rise, and all empires fall. For now, though, the Republic believes itself eternal, and its legions march on. You wake to the crash of waves against stone harbours and the scent of resin from pine masts. The year is 200 BCE, and Rome's eyes turn east. Carthage lies broken, Spain subdued, Italy secured, yet the Republic is restless, its ambition spilling like water seeking new channels. Across the Adriatic, Greece waits, fractured, proud, glittering with memory. The Senate speaks of allies in need, of protecting Greek cities from Macedonian kings. Their words drip with honour, but ambition hums beneath the surface. Greece is a treasure, fertile valleys, bustling ports, libraries filled with scrolls, temples adorned with marble statues. To conquer Greece is to seize not only land, but the legacy of Alexander himself. You march through Thessaly, the hills cloaked in morning mist. The ground is damp, smelling of pine needles and wet earth. Ahead lies Philip Fand of Macedon, his phalanx glittering with bronze. Thousands of long pikes jut forward, an iron forest swaying with deadly rhythm. The Romans deploy differently. Manipular formations spread across the uneven hills. Small, flexible, shifting like water. The clash comes sudden, violent. The Macedonian phalanx advances, spears thrusting, shields grinding. Romans struggle at first, their swords too short to pierce the wall. You feel panic ripple through the line, the pressure of iron pushing you backward. But then the terrain betrays the phalanx. On uneven ground, the long spears tangle, gaps open. Roman maniples slip in like knives through cloth, cutting the formation apart. You hear screams, the snap of wood, the gurgle of dying men. By dusk, Philip's army lies broken, his pride shattered. The battle proves what Rome whispers with pride. The phalanx, once unstoppable under Alexander, is brittle before Roman discipline. Rome proclaims Greece free. Envoys announce liberation in marketplaces, their voices carrying over crowds of curious citizens. Yet freedom under Roman eyes feels different. Roman garrisons linger, treaties are dictated, taxes demanded. The people of Greece, still weary from their own rivalries, do not yet see the chains tightening. In Athens, philosophers debate beneath colonnades, their voices echoing against marble. You walk among them, hearing arguments about justice, fate, and the nature of the soul. Roman visitors listen too, scribbling notes, their minds enchanted by Greek wisdom. In the agora, merchants sell olives, figs, papyrus, their stalls crowded, their voices cheerful, but beneath the bustle lies unease. Rome is everywhere, in the treaties nailed to city gates, in the coins stamped with Roman standards, in the quiet presence of soldiers at the edges of the crowd. By 171 BCE, war returns. Philip's son, Perseus, challenges Rome. At Pydna, the armies meet beneath a blazing sun. The Macedonian phalanx advances once more, pikes bristling, shields gleaming. The ground shakes beneath their steady march. The Romans brace. The impact is like a storm. Pikes drive into shields, iron scrapes, bone, men scream. For a moment the phalanx pushes them back, but then the land betrays Macedon again. A stream bed, uneven rocks, small ridges, the rigid line buckles. Romans surge into the gaps, their short swords stabbing, their shields smashing. You hear the gasps of Macedonian soldiers, trapped in formations too tight to turn, too rigid to flee. The slaughter is swift, merciless. By sunset, the field is a graveyard of bronze and blood. Perseus flees, his crown lost in dust. Macedon falls. Rome does not crown a new king. Instead, the kingdom is carved into 4 republics, each fragile, each watched closely. To Greek ears, the word freedom tastes bitter. Years pass. Rome's shadow grows. Greek cities argue, resist, appeal to old alliances, but Rome answers with steel. In 146 BCE, the Achaean League rises, daring to defy the Republic. You stand at Corinth, jewel of Greece, where marble temples gleam in the sun. Markets overflow with wine and silk. and statues line the streets. Pride fills the air. Yet pride cannot hold against Rome. The legions descend, their boots pounding the earth, their banners snapping in the wind. The clash is brief, the outcome certain. Corinth falls. What follows is horror. Flames devour temples, smoke curls into the sky, statues shatter beneath hammers, scrolls burn to ash. Women scream as chains are clamped on their wrists. Children cry as they are dragged into slavery. Men are cut down in the streets. You walk through the ruins, the air thick with smoke and grief. The jewel of Greece becomes rubble, its pride erased in a single day. The same year, across the sea, Carthage too is destroyed. Two ancient rivals, Corinth and Carthage, gone within months. Rome emerges unmatched, her supremacy unquestioned. You walk the streets of Athens at twilight. The Parthenon glows in the fading sun, its columns gold against purple sky. Philosophers still gather, their voices soft, their words lingering in the air like incense. But the tone has changed. They speak with Roman listeners among them, senators' sons taking notes, generals pausing to listen. Rome has conquered Greece with swords, but Greece conquers Rome with spirit. Roman villas fill with Greek statues, Roman libraries with Greek scrolls. Senators send their children to learn rhetoric and philosophy from Greek teachers. The gods themselves blend, Jupiter with Zeus, Mars with Ares, Venus with Aphrodite. And yet, admiration does not soften conquest. Roman governors rule, Roman taxes bite, Roman soldiers stand watch. Freedom exists only in the words carved on decrees, not in the lives of the people. You stand on the Acropolis, the city stretched below, torches flickering in Roman camps at the edges. The wind carries faint ash from Corinth, still smouldering. Though months have passed, you realize the truth. Rome has not only conquered Greece, it has begun to absorb it, body and soul. The Republic is no longer merely Italian. It is Mediterranean, stretching from Spain to Asia, its legions and its laws pressing into every corner. Yet, as you gaze into the night, you sense the cost. Conquest has filled Rome's coffers and pride, but also its belly with greed. Senators grow richer, generals grow hungrier, the people grow restless. What began as defensive allies has become domination. And you, standing in the wind on sacred ground, feel the weight of history shift again. Rome has taken Greece, but in doing so, Greece has taken Rome. You wake to the clamour of a restless forum. The year is 133 BCE, and the stones beneath your feet seem to tremble with unease. Rome has never been greater. Carthage reduced to ash, Corinth toppled, Spain and Asia now under Roman watch. Wealth pours in through harbours and caravans, silver stacked in treasuries, slaves sold in markets by the thousands. The Republic appears invincible. But walk deeper into the city, and you see another face. Villas on the Palatine gleam with marble, gardens overflow with fountains, banquets groan with silver dishes. Yet in the Suburra the poor huddle in crumbling tenements. The air smells of sewage, sweat and smoke. Families crowd into single rooms. Rats scurry along beams. Children cry from hunger. Farmers who once held small plots have returned from long wars to find their land seized by creditors or absorbed into vast estates. Latifundia, worked by slaves cheaper than free men. Veterans wander without farms, their loyalty fraying. Rome's greatness rests on a broken foundation. It is into this crisis that Tiberius Gracchus steps. As tribune of the plebs, he carries the authority to propose laws directly to the assembly. You see him climb the rostra, his toga gleaming, his young face solemn. The crowd hushes. His voice carries clear, each word deliberate. The land must be restored. No man, he argues, should hold more than 500 igora, and excess must be redistributed to the poor. The forum erupts. Plebeians shout approval, their voices rolling like thunder. Farmers weep openly, clapping rough hands together. Slaves glance nervously, sensing the danger in their master's eyes. Yet in the Senate, men stiffen with fury. These are not just fields, they are fortunes, power, status. To strip them is to strip Rome's most powerful of their pride. You follow Tiberius through streets at night, the lamps casting shadows across walls covered in graffiti. Gracchus, our saviour, he walks with purpose, but whispers trail him. Threats from patricians, warnings from allies. Still, he presses on. When a fellow tribune attempts to veto his law, Tiberius calls on the assembly itself to depose him. Gasps ripple through the crowd. Never before has such a thing been done, yet the people, desperate, obey. His reform passes, a land commission is created. Families hope once more to plough their own soil, not another man's. But victory tastes of iron. Senators mutter of treachery, of tyranny disguised as reform. When Tiberius seeks re-election, breaking tradition, they strike. The day is sweltering. The forum teems with citizens ready to cast their votes. Suddenly, senators and their followers surge in, clubs and chair legs in their hands. You hear the crack of wood on bone, the screams of men trampled in panic. Tiberius stumbles, falls, and is beaten to death beside the very stones where he spoke of justice. His supporters are hunted down, their bodies thrown into the Tiber. The Forum, Sacred Heart of Rome, is stained with blood. A line has been crossed, but the fire does not die. 10 years later, in 123 BCE, Gaius Gracchus, Tiberius's younger brother, rises. You see him standing where his brother fell, his voice louder, sharper, more fiery. He proposes more than land reform, grain sold at reduced price to citizens, colonies abroad where the poor might find land and hope, roads built, supplies managed, justice extended beyond the Senate's grasp. His energy is relentless. Crowds follow him through the streets, chanting his name. He is re-elected. And then again, for a moment Rome feels transformed. Food fills bellies, hope flickers in tired eyes. Even merchants cheer the new markets swelling with trade. But power gathers enemies. The Senate, alarmed, stirs opposition. Old fears return that one man seeks too much, threatens too much. Clashes erupt between supporters and rivals. Stones fly, knives flash, men fall bleeding in the streets. By 121 BCE, the crisis reaches its peak. Ganius, cornered across the Tiber, knows his fate. Loyal friends beg him to flee, but he refuses to be paraded in chains. Instead, with dignity, he orders his faithful slave to end his life. Steel pierces, and silence follows. The Senate rejoices, but their victory is uneasy. They have preserved their power, yet stained it with violence once again. You walk the streets afterward, the air sour with grief. Mothers whisper Tiberius's name as they rock their children. Veterans mutter of betrayal, their calloused hands clenching empty purses. Young men stare at the Senate's marble halls with hatred in their eyes. Historians later debate whether Gracchi heroes or agitators, visionaries or reckless. Some say they saved the Republic from decay, others that they hastened its collapse. But to those who lived it, their memory is simple: hope and blood. The reforms falter. Many rolled back, yet the crack in the Republic remains. Rome has learned that politics can end in murder, that the Senate will kill to protect its power, and that the people will bleed for change. In the years that follow, you hear their names whispered in taverns, carved in graffiti, spoken with pride or anger. The Suburra remembers them as martyrs. The Palatine remembers them as threats. The Republic itself is no longer the same. The bond between citizen and Senate frays. Farmers continue to lose land, slaves pour in, wealth concentrates, soldiers begin to look less to the Senate and more to their generals for protection. You climb the Capitoline at dawn. The sky glows red, the temples shimmer with early light. Below, the Forum stirs, senators in gleaming togas, plebeians gathering in anger or hope. You breathe the air heavy with tension and feel the truth. The Republic has cracked. The blood of the Gracchi soaks its stones, and the fracture will widen until it swallows Rome whole. You wake to the sound of marching feet on dust. The year is 107 BCE, and Rome trembles again. The Republic is vast. Spain subdued, Greece absorbed, Carthage destroyed. But inside weakness spreads. The gap between rich and poor widens. Land reforms have failed, and in the streets of Rome hungry citizens whisper of betrayal. Beyond Italy, threats sharpen. In the deserts of North Africa, Jugurtha, king of Numidia, humiliates Roman generals with bribes and cunning. His men vanish into dunes, strike suddenly, then melt into the sand. In the north, across rivers and mountains, great tribes move, the Cimbri and Teutones, waves of people pressing south, their wagons creaking with families, their warriors fierce and countless. Rome, stretched thin, finds itself unready. Into this storm steps Gaius Marius. You see him first in the Forum, not a patrician, not a man of noble blood, but a novus homo, a new man. His toga is plain, his face stern, his eyes hard with determination. He speaks not with the Polish of aristocrats, but with the blunt force of a soldier. He promises victory in Africa, justice for veterans, land for the poor. The people cheer. The Senate scowls. Elected consul in 107 BCE, Marius takes command against Jugurtha. In Africa, you march beside him. The desert sun blazes, your throat dry, your feet blistering in sand. Jugurtha's men ambush from gullies, strike at supply lines, vanish into dust. But Marius is relentless. He drills his soldiers until discipline is sharper than hunger. He reorganizes camps, standardizes equipment, and pushes his men harder than they thought possible. You feel the exhaustion in your bones, yet also pride. This army is different, harder, leaner. At last, through treachery and persistence, Jugurtha is captured in 105 BCE. You watch as he is paraded through Rome in chains, his once proud face hollow with defeat. The people roar approval, but the war has only been prologue. Even as Jugurtha falls, news comes from the north. Disaster. At Arosio in 105 BCE, Roman armies are annihilated by the Cimbri and Teutones. 80,000 soldiers dead, the largest defeat since Cannae. The survivors stumble back, their faces pale, their eyes empty. Rome gasps in horror. Families mourn, the Forum wails with grief. The Senate trembles. Marius is called again. He is elected consul not once, but year after year, breaking tradition, wielding power no one else has dared. He reforms the army to face this new threat. You stand on the Campus Martius, where citizens once gathered to be sorted for service. Only landowners chosen, their farms left behind while they fought. But Marius changes everything. He opens the legions to the Capite Censi, the landless poor, men with nothing but their bodies to offer. You see them gather, farmers without farms, labourers without wages, beggars in ragged tunics. They lift shields and swords for the first time, their eyes burning with hunger and hope. The state provides equipment now, not the men themselves. Service becomes not duty but livelihood. You march with them, feeling the difference. These soldiers fight not to protect estates they do not own, but for pay, for plunder, for the promise of land at the war's end. And above all, they fight for Marius, the man who gave them a place in Rome's armies. Discipline sharpens. Standards are carried with reverence, each cohort bound to its eagle. You dig trenches, build fortified camps every night, drill until your muscles ache. You sleep in the dirt, eat hard bread, sharpen swords. Yet pride grows. You are no farmer pressed into service, but a soldier of Rome, a professional. The years pass, and the northern tribes press ever closer. Their wagons roll like thunder, their warriors roar, their numbers overwhelming. Fear spreads in Rome, but in the camps of Marius, discipline steadies hands. At Arque Sextia in 102 BCE, you stand on a sun-baked hillside in southern Gaul. Below, the Teutones swarm, their cries like a storm, their shields painted, their hair wild. Marius has chosen the ground carefully. His men lie in wait, hidden ravines ready. When the Teutones charge, the trap springs. Romans surge down, shields locked, swords thrusting. The clash is brutal, close, suffocating. Blood spatters your face, screams fill your ears. The stench of sweat and death thickens the air. By dusk, the Teutones are broken. The next year, at Vercellae, in 101 BCE, the Cimbri meet the same fate. The plains stretch wide, the sun blinding, the air shimmering with heat. You march forward, shields high, the ground shaking beneath thousands of feet. The Cimbri charge, but Roman discipline holds. Cohorts pivot, standards flash, cavalry sweeps the flanks. The tribes are crushed, their wagons seized, their families enslaved. When the dust settles, Rome erupts in triumph. Marius is hailed as the savior of the Republic, the third founder of Rome, his name spoken with reverence. Yet victory carries seeds of danger. You feel it in the way soldiers speak. They do not whisper of the Senate, of the Republic, of Rome. They speak of Marius. Their loyalty is not to the state, but to the man who gave them land, wages, hope. In the Subura, veterans return to find promises half kept. Some receive land, but others face obstruction from senators who resist redistribution. Frustration festers. Soldiers grumble that the Senate cannot be trusted, that only generals will care for them. Rome itself shifts. The Forum still bustles with merchants and lawyers, but the air is tense. Senators mutter about precedent. Marius elected consul 6 times, reforms overturning tradition. Plebeians cheer him, patricians curse him, and beneath it all, the Republic groans. You walk through a camp at night, the firelight flickering across tired faces. Men sharpen blades, mend sandals, whisper stories of plunder and home. They no longer see themselves as citizens fighting temporarily, but as soldiers first, last, always. You realize something has changed forever. Rome's armies are now professional, and professional armies demand rewards. At dawn, you climb the Palatine Hill. The city glows in the early light, temples shining, the Tiber flowing calm. Below, veterans gather in the Forum, waiting for word of land, of rewards, of justice. Senators shuffle past, their eyes hard, their lips tight. Marius himself stands apart, silent, proud, his face lined by battle and burden. You breathe the air, heavy with dust and ambition. The Republic has survived Jugurtha, the Cimbri, the Teutones. But in surviving, it has changed. The army is no longer Rome's servant. It is Rome's master in waiting. And you, standing on the Palatine, feel the tremor of a future civil war already stirring beneath the triumphs. You wake to the rattle of chains. The year is 135 BCE, and Sicily groans under the weight of slavery. Villas sprawl across the island, their fields endless, their owners wealthy. But it is not their sweat that makes the wheat grow. It is the slaves. Tens of thousands, captured in wars, dragged from homes in Greece, Africa, Asia. You hear their groans at dawn, see their backs bent, their shoulders scarred by whips. In the hills outside Enna, the ground smells of olives and dust. A man named Onus, a Syrian slave, whispers of visions from the gods, flames dancing from his mouth in ritual trick. Around him gather men with broken chains, their eyes burning. One night they rise. Blades flash, villas burn, masters are cut down in their beds. You smell smoke in the wind, hear the clamour of revolt. The first servile war begins. For years, Sicily shakes. Armies of slaves swarm the countryside, thousands strong. They wield stolen swords, spears, even farm tools sharpened into weapons. Roman legions are sent, but defeat follows defeat. Only after long campaigns with blood spilled across the island do the Romans prevail. Eunice is captured, his rebellion crushed. The survivors hang on crosses that line the roads, their bodies swaying in the sun. But Sicily does not rest. In 104 BCE, another uprising erupts. This time the slaves rally under Athenian and Salvius, men fierce and cunning. Again, Sicily burns. Fields lie fallow, villas abandoned. Roman commanders humiliated. For years chaos reigns until once more Rome stamps it out. Tens of thousands are killed or crucified. The survivors silenced by fear. Yet fear is not enough to end the hunger for freedom. By 73 BCE in Italy itself, the chains break again. You wake in Capua, the stench of sweat and blood heavy in the air of the gladiatorial school. Dozens of men live here, trained not as soldiers but as spectacle, their bodies weapons for the entertainment of crowds. They are fed, armed, and caged. Among them is a man from Thrace, Spartacus. One night, you hear the scrape of iron on stone. Spartacus and his companions seize kitchen knives, cleavers, spits for roasting meat. They break through the gates, their sandals pounding dirt. In the darkness they escape, hearts pounding, lungs burning, free. At first it is small, a band of 70 men raiding carts, stealing weapons, but the fire spreads. Runaway slaves flock to him, shepherds from hills, field hands from estates, miners with skin caked in dust. Soon his band is an army, tens of thousands strong. You walk among them and feel their desperation turn into courage. The Senate mocks them at first. Slaves cannot stand against Rome, but when praetors march to crush the rebellion, Spartacus outmaneuvers them. His men fight with ferocity, wielding not only swords but hope. Roman columns are scattered, commanders humiliated. Panic creeps into Rome's streets. If slaves can win, what else is possible? You march with Spartacus through the Apennines. The air is sharp with pine, the ground slick with rain. Camps rise with laughter and song. Men and women dreaming of freedom. Some speak of returning to homelands, of crossing the Alps to escape. Others hunger for vengeance, for Rome's destruction. Victories mount. Roman armies are routed again and again. At night you see fires burning across hills, signals of triumph. Yet Spartacus hesitates. He pushes north, then turns back. Perhaps he doubts the loyalty of so many. Perhaps escape is less tempting than revenge. Historians argue still. You only know the roads fill with soldiers, and the fields with graves. By 72 BCE, the rebellion has grown monstrous in scale. Nearly 100,000 slaves march under Spartacus's banner. Roman commanders fall one after another. The Senate grows desperate. They call upon Marcus Licinius Crassus, the wealthiest man in Rome. His gold funds new legions. His discipline sharpens them. He revives the ancient punishment of decimation. Every 10th man executed in failing units. Fear restores order. The final clashes are brutal. Spartacus's army splinters. Hope frays. Some flee toward the sea, hoping for ships to carry them away, but pirates betray them. Others scatter into hills, hunted like animals. Still, Spartacus fights on. In 71 BCE, the end comes in southern Italy. You stand on the plain, the winter air cutting sharp. Spartacus rides at the front, not in armor of kings but simple gear, a leader among equals. He charges, cutting through soldiers until his body is pierced with spears. He falls, not captured, but slain in battle, his dream extinguished in blood. The survivors are shown no mercy. 6,000 men are crucified along the Appian Way. You walk that road, the stench of death heavy in your throat. The sight endless body after body, nailed to wood, heads slumped, crows circling above. For miles the road becomes a gallery of suffering, a warning written in flesh. Rome breathes relief, but also unease. For years, the mightiest republic in the world had been shaken by slaves, by men and women who had nothing but desperation and courage. The thought lingers like a ghost. If the oppressed can rise once, they can rise again. At night, you sit in the Subura, the city restless. Families whisper of Spartacus as both monster and hero. Senators speak of him with contempt, but their eyes flicker with fear. Soldiers boast of victory, but their voices falter. You realize the revolt has scarred Rome deeper than anyone will admit. Slavery remains. The markets are still full of chained men and women. The fields still worked by captives. The villas still echo with orders barked at trembling servants. But something has shifted. You hear it in the silence of masters who lock their doors tighter, in the way slaves glance sideways when guards pass. The dream of Spartacus endures, quiet, dangerous, unforgotten. At dawn, you climb the Palatine Hill. The city stretches before you, bathed in pale light. Triumph arches gleam. Temples smoke with offerings. Senators stride proudly, yet beneath it all the memory of rebellion clings to the stones. Rome has crushed Spartacus, but his ghost walks still in chains that rattle louder now, in fields where men dream of freedom. You breathe deep, the air cool and sharp. The Republic has proven its might again, but also revealed its fragility, and you, standing on the hill, feel the weight of it. Rome rules millions, yet cannot silence the cries of those it enslaves. You wake to the rising hum of voices in the Forum. The year is 91 BCE, and Rome is restless. Senators argue in sharp tones, their gestures wide, their faces tight with anger. The marble pillars echo with words of privilege and fear, but beneath the grand speeches lies a wound that has been festering for decades, the wound of Rome's allies. For more than 2 centuries, the Italian allies, known as Socii, have fought alongside Roman legions. They bled at Cannae, they died in Spain, they marched in Greece and Africa, their villages emptied of sons to serve Rome's wars. Yet when peace returns, their reward is silence. They pay taxes, they send soldiers, but they remain second class, no right to vote, no say in Rome's destiny. In their towns, magistrates answer to Roman governors, their laws bend to Roman decrees. They are soldiers of the Republic, but not its citizens. You walk through Corfinium, a town nestled among Samnite hills. The market bustles with life. Bakers sell bread. Children chase each other between stalls. Blacksmiths hammer glowing iron. Yet there is tension in every glance, every whispered word. Men grumble that their sons fight and die for Rome, but cannot speak in Rome's assemblies. Old veterans point to their scars and ask what they were worth. Pride turns to bitterness. In the Forum, Marcus Livius Drusus, tribune of the plebs, dares to voice what many fear to admit, that Rome must extend citizenship to all Italians. His words ripple like thunder. In the crowd, farmers nod, soldiers cheer. Allies cling to hope, but the Senate recoils. Patricians mutter of losing control, of diluting power. Fear spreads faster than reason. One evening, as the sun sets over tiled roofs, news races through the city. Drusus is dead, murdered in his home. His supporters mourn in the streets, but grief curdles into rage. For the Allies, his death is proof. Rome will never grant them justice willingly. The fire catches. Town after town rises. In Samnium, warriors beat shields with spears, calling for revolt. In Lucania, elders gather in darkened halls, swearing oaths. In the Marsic hills, banners are raised. Corfinium becomes the rebels' capital, renamed Italica. A senate is formed, consuls elected, coins minted with the face of Italia herself. It is no longer protest. It is war. You march with the Roman legions into a conflict unlike any before. These are not Gauls or Carthaginians, speaking foreign tongues and wearing strange armour. These are Italians, men who share your language, your tactics, your gods. Their shields gleam with familiar bronze. Their formations mirror your own. When you face them on the field, it feels like fighting your reflection. The first clashes are brutal. At Asculum in 90 BCE, rebel forces hold the city against Rome. You storm the gates, the air thick with dust and smoke. The streets echo with screams as soldiers hack their way through alleys, blood-splattering walls once painted with frescoes. Families cower behind barred doors. When the city falls, vengeance is merciless. Citizens are slaughtered, houses burned, corpses piled high. The stench of ash and death hangs for days. The war spreads across the peninsula. In Samnium, you climb steep ridges, the ground slick with rain, the air thin in your chest. Rebels launch ambushes, rolling boulders down slopes, spears raining from cliffs. In Campania, fertile fields are trampled, vineyards cut down, olive trees hacked apart to deny supplies. Villages burn at night, their flames visible for miles. The Republic reels. In the first year, defeats mount, rebel armies sweep through central Italy, their banners bright against the hills. Panic grips Rome. Senators whisper of doom, mothers wail for sons. Yet Rome is cunning. She turns to promises. The Lex Julia of 90 BCE extends citizenship to allies who lay down arms. Then the Lex Plotia Papiria, offering the same to those who swear loyalty quickly. Some accept, their hopes outweighing rebellion. Others fight on, too deep in blood to turn back. In 89 BCE, battles rage fiercer still. You stand amid the clash at Acere, where Roman legions struggle against Samnite ferocity. The air is filled with the clang of iron, the shouts of commanders, the screams of the wounded. Bodies carpet the ground, their faces familiar, their tongues Roman, though their allegiance is not. You stab forward, sweat in your eyes, mud under your feet, and wonder how this war can end when every foe is kin. At Asculum again, the final Roman assault tears the city apart. The streets are rivers of blood, survivors are dragged in chains, their cries echoing, victory tastes bitter. By 88 BCE, the rebellion falters. The promises of citizenship weaken the rebel cause. Cities defect, leaders fall. Samnite warriors still fight with desperate courage. But Rome's weight is too great. Italica, proud capital of the revolt, is broken. The social war ends, not with a treaty of equals, but with exhaustion and absorption. You return to Rome, and the change is immediate. The forum hums with new voices. Men from distant towns now enrolled as citizens, their names written on wax tablets, their votes counted. Italy is no longer a patchwork of allies and subjects. It is one people, one republic. But unity is not peace. You walk through the Suburra and hear soldiers grumble. They fought for citizenship, but many have yet to see its benefits. Veterans demand land, families demand justice, and politicians scheme. Senators mutter of the new citizens diluting old power. Patricians sneer at Italians flooding assemblies, their accents strange, their manners rustic. The promise of equality is fragile, and the resentment of the old elite sharpens. At night, you sit by a tavern fire, listening to veterans argue. One raises a cup, praising Marius, who opened the army to the poor. Another curses the Senate for failing to reward them. They agree only on this: their loyalty lies not with the Senate, but with generals who lead them. The bond between soldier and republic weakens, replaced by something more personal, more dangerous. Historians later call the social war both tragedy and transformation. It drenched Italy in blood, destroyed towns, left fields barren, families mourning, but it also unified the peninsula. For the first time, all Italians became Romans. The Republic grew stronger in body, but weaker in spirit. The war taught dangerous lessons, that rights are won with swords, not petitions, and that soldiers fight for leaders, not laws. At dawn, you climb the Capitoline Hill. The sky glows red, temples shimmer in the light. Below, the forum stirs with voices new and old. Men from Samnium, Etruria, Campania stand on the same stones, citizens at last. Yet the city feels uneasy, as if the stones remember the blood spilled by brothers against brothers. The Republic has survived, but it has changed. Italy is one, but its unity has come at a cost. And as you breathe in the morning air, sharp and cool, you feel it in your bones. This was not an ending, but a beginning. The social war is over, but the civil wars are coming. You wake to the murmur of a divided city. The year is 88 BCE, and Rome seethes like a cauldron. Italy has just been bound together by the promise of citizenship after the social war, but the scars are still raw. Veterans limp through the streets, widows mourn in silence, and the Senate bickers as if nothing has changed. Into this fragile world step two men whose rivalry will shatter the Republic: Gaius Marius, saviour of Rome, and Lucius Cornelius Sulla, a patrician soldier with eyes like cold steel. You hear the news in the forum. The command of the war against Mithridates, king of Pontus, has been granted, and it goes to Sulla. Mithridates has risen in the east, massacring tens of thousands of Romans in Asia Minor, his armies spreading like fire through Greece. The people rage, desperate for vengeance, but the populares, led by Marius, see an opportunity. In a storm of speeches and votes, the command is stripped from Sulla and handed to Marius. The city explodes. Soldiers mutter in camps, their loyalty tested. Sulla does the unthinkable. He does what no Roman general has dared before. He turns his army, 6 legions hardened by the social war, not against foreign foes but against Rome itself. You stand on the road as the dust rises, as shields glint in sunlight, as eagles march toward the very gates they swore to protect. Panic grips the city. Senators wail, citizens flee, doors slam shut. The sacred Pomerium, the boundary no general is supposed to cross with armed men, is trampled beneath hobnailed sandals. Arrows fly from rooftops, stones crash onto helmets, but the legions press on. Fires ignite, screams echo, the streets become rivers of blood. You breathe smoke, your ears filled with the clash of Romans, killing Romans. For the first time in history, Rome is taken by her own army. Sulla restores his command, declares Marius an enemy, and leaves for the east. Yet the city is not calm. Marius returns from exile in 87 BCE, scarred and furious. He storms through Rome with Cinna, his ally, and vengeance flows. Senators are cut down, their heads displayed in the forum. Blood pools in sacred spaces. Temples echo with screams. Marius himself dies soon after, old and broken, but the precedent he set, slaughterer's politics, will not fade. In the east, Sulla wages relentless war. You march with him across the Aegean, the salt air sharp in your lungs. In Greece, cities smoulder. At Athens, he besieges the proud city. Once the jewel of philosophy, starvation grips the inhabitants. Corpses litter the streets. When the gates finally fall, the legions pour in. Temples are plundered, libraries burned, statues dragged away. You walk past the Parthenon, smoke curling against its columns, the cries of Athenians echoing through ruins. Rome's wrath is total. Mithridates is beaten back, his army scattered, his power checked. By 83 BCE, Sulla returns to Italy, laden with victory, his coffers rich with plunder. But home is not peace. Rome is chaos. Factions clash, loyalties split, the city a battlefield in waiting. You stand on the shore as Sulla's ships land. His soldiers disembark, their armour battered but their eyes hard. Veterans who have followed him through fire, they look not to the Senate, not to the laws, but to Sulla himself. Behind them, banners whip in the wind, eagles gleam in fading light. Civil war ignites. You march through Campania, the hills green with spring, yet soaked in blood. Battles flare against Marian forces, the air thick with dust and iron. Villages are burned, men slaughtered, families scattered. Sulla's advance is merciless. Each step closer to Rome is marked with corpses. By 82 BCE, the final clash comes at the Colline Gate, just outside the city. The dawn is crimson, the ground trembling with tens of thousands of feet. The Samnites, once Rome's fiercest enemies, now fight alongside Marian forces, their rage undimmed. The battle rages for hours, the air thick with screams and smoke. You feel the crush of bodies, the sting of sweat in your eyes, the weight of exhaustion. At last, Sulla's legions hold. The Samnites are slaughtered, their bodies piled high, the field soaked in blood. Rome lies at Sulla's feet. The aftermath is worse than the war. Sulla declares himself dictator, not for months, as tradition allows, but indefinitely. He walks into the Senate, his gaze cold, his voice steady, and announces lists, prescriptions, names of enemies, political rivals, men and women alike. Their lives are forfeit. You walk the streets and see their names carved on tablets, posted in the forum. Anyone may kill them. Anyone may claim their property. Heads are displayed on spikes. Blood drips from marble steps. Families scatter. Friends betray each other for coin. Rome becomes a city of whispers and fear. Sulla reforms the republic with iron. He strengthens the Senate, curbs the power of the tribunes, expands the courts. He believes he restores order, but the order is one of terror. The air tastes of ash, the streets smell of fear. Yet even in his ruthlessness, cracks show. His soldiers grow rich with plundered estates, but their loyalty is to him, not to Rome. Veterans settle on seized lands, their presence resented. Old wounds fester. One day, without warning, Sulla lays down his power. He retires to a villa in Campania, surrounded by luxury, his body scarred, his mind weary. He dies in 78 BCE, leaving behind a republic twisted, bleeding, unstable. You walk through the forum after his death. The air is quiet, but unease lingers. The statues gleam, the temples stand, yet the memory of legions marching through the streets, of heads displayed on rostra, of laws bent to one man's will, remains sharp. Rome has learned that her armies can seize the city, that generals can rule as dictators, that blood can wash away opposition. The Republic survives, but it has changed forever. You breathe deeply, the morning air cool, the Tiber flowing calm. Yet in that calm you sense the truth. Sulla has shown the path, and others will follow it. The armies of Rome no longer belong to Rome, they belong to their generals. You wake to the sound of rain on canvas, and the creak of leather straps. The year is 58 BCE, and you stand in northern Italy, where Julius Caesar has just taken command of the Gallic provinces. The forum whispers about him, ambitious, cunning, drowning in debts but rich in charm. His enemies sneer that he seeks glory to buy his way out of ruin. His supporters believe he is destined for greatness. His soldiers, they will follow him anywhere. The frontier feels raw, untamed. Rivers cut through forests dense with oak. The air smells of pine resin and damp earth, and beyond the horizon lie the tribes of Gaul. They are proud, fierce, divided into clans, their warriors painted, their chieftains draped in gold torques. Rome has fought them before, but Caesar sees not just enemies, he sees opportunity. The Helvetii are the first, an entire people, wagons creaking, families marching in columns that stretch for miles, pushing west to find new land. Caesar intercepts them. At Bibracte, the battle rages across rolling hills. The Roman legions lock shields, peal a whistle through the air, swords thrust in unison. The Gauls charge with wild cries, their spears rattling, their shields painted with spirals and beasts. You hear the clash like thunder, smell sweat and iron, feel the ground shake. By nightfall the Helvetii are broken, their migration halted, their people forced to return to their lands. Caesar sends dispatches back to Rome, his words carefully chosen. He is not conquering. He insists, He is protecting allies, defending order, bringing stability. Yet you see the hunger in his eyes. Each victory feeds his legend. In 57 BCE, the Belgae rise. They are the fiercest of Gaul, living in the cold north, hardened by endless war. At the river Sabis, you march with the legions into ambush. Spears rain from the trees, warriors scream, shields splinter. For a moment chaos rules. The Romans driven back, camps overrun, standards nearly lost. But Caesar himself charges into the fray, his cloak bright, his voice cutting through fear. The legions rally, pushing forward, the ground littered with corpses. The Belgae break, retreating into forests, their pride shattered. Winter in Gaul is long and cruel. Snow carpets the ground, breath smokes in the air, frost bites at fingers. Yet Caesar does not let his men rest. Roads are built, supply lines secured, alliances forged. He invites Gallic chieftains to banquets, feeds them wine, listens to their oaths. Some leave as friends, others as hostages. Rome's grip tightens, not only with swords but with silver and words. By 55 BCE, new threats loom. Across the Rhine, the Germanic tribes stir. Tall, pale-haired warriors cross the river, their war cries chilling, their numbers vast. Caesar acts swiftly. He orders a bridge built, a masterpiece of engineering. In just 10 days, Roman soldiers drive piles into the riverbed, lash beams, lay planks. The bridge stretches across the Rhine, a defiance in wood and iron. You march across, the river roaring below, the Germans fleeing at the sight. Caesar burns villages, then withdraws, the message clear. Rome can reach anywhere. That same year, Caesar turns his gaze across the sea. He orders ships, crude and shallow, to carry legions to a land barely known, Britannia. You feel the salt wind in your face as sails snap, waves crash, and cliffs rise grey against the sky. Warriors line the shore, chariots racing along the beaches, wheels cutting sand. The landing is chaos. Men leap into surf, shields held high, arrows hissing down. You stagger through waves, armor dragging you under, the sea tasting of salt and fear. But the Romans push forward, seize the shore, and force the Britons back. The conquest is brief, more spectacle than empire. Yet Rome has set foot on another island, and Caesar adds another page to his glory. But Gaul does not submit. In 52 BCE, rebellion erupts, led by Vercingetorix, a chieftain of the Arverni, tall, fierce, his hair flowing. He unites tribes that once fought each other, forging a single force against Rome. He burns fields to starve the legions, destroys villages to deny supplies. The land itself becomes weapon. You march through smoke and ash, hungry, weary, the enemy always retreating, striking, vanishing. The final stand comes at Alesia. The Gallic stronghold rises on a hill, walls bristling, warriors shouting defiance. Inside, tens of thousands prepare for siege. Caesar surrounds the city with walls, ditches, towers, not one line but two facing inward and outward, to hold enemies within and without. You labour day and night, shovels clanging, sweat stinging your eyes, the smell of damp earth thick in your nose. Then the relief army comes. Hundreds of thousands, it is said, tribes pouring in from across Gaul, their war cries echoing through the valleys. You stand between two walls of fire, Gauls charging from outside, Gauls screaming from within. The earth shakes, the air is filled with arrows, stones, spears. Men fall screaming, blood-soaking trenches. For hours you fight with desperation, shields heavy, muscles burning. At last the Gauls break. The relief army scatters, their cries fading into hills. Inside Alesia, Vercingetorix surrenders. You see him ride out on horseback, armor gleaming, head held high. He dismounts, lays his sword at Caesar's feet, and kneels. The rebellion dies in that gesture, though the memory will never fade. By 51 BCE, Gaul is pacified. Entire tribes enslaved, fields seized, cities rebuilt under Roman rule. Caesar sends reports to Rome. Commentari de Bello Gallico, written in calm, precise Latin, turning slaughter into triumph, conquest into narrative. Senators read and seether. The people read and cheer. His fame spreads like wildfire. You walk through a Gallic village now under Roman control. Children chase each other, their laughter tinged with fear. Men labour under Roman overseers, their faces hard. Women sell goods in markets where Roman coins clink. The air smells of smoke, bread, and unease. Rome has triumphed, but Gaul is not silent. Resentment simmers, waiting. In Rome, Caesar's name grows too large. He is no longer just a general. He is a hero to the masses, a terror to the Senate, a rival to Pompey and Crassus, his partners in power. His legions, hardened by years in Gaul, are not citizens called for duty, but soldiers bound to him by loyalty, by land, by blood. You stand with them one evening by a campfire. Flames crackle, sparks rise, the smell of roasting meat mixes with damp earth. A soldier speaks. Caesar feeds us, pays us, leads us. Why should we care for senators who sneer at us? Others nod. Their loyalty is not to Rome, but to the man beside them. As you watch the flames flicker, you understand. The Gallic wars have given Caesar more than glory. They have given him an army that will march wherever he commands, even against Rome itself. At dawn, the sky glows red over Gallic hills. Caesar surveys the land, his cloak billowing, his face calm, his eyes sharp. He has conquered tribes, rivers, forests, even the sea. But the greatest conquest lies ahead, not in Gaul, not in Britain, but in the heart of the Republic. If you enjoy these stories, a like or a subscription means more than you think. It directly supports the channel and keeps these long journeys alive. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Where are you listening from, and what time is it there right now? You wake to the murmurs of a restless Rome. The year is 44 BCE, and the air tastes of triumph and unease. Julius Caesar has returned from conquest, crowned in glory. He has crossed the Rubicon, defeated Pompey, crushed the last resistance in Spain and Africa. He has marched through the streets in triumph after triumph. Wagons filled with plunder, prisoners paraded in chains, laurel crowns gleaming on his brow. The people cheer, their cries rising like thunder. Yet beneath the jubilation lies fear. In the forum you hear whispers. Some call him saviour, others tyrant. He has been named dictator for life, a title that clings to him like iron shackles. Statues rise in his honour, temples built to his genius, coins stamped with his face. You walk past one of these coins in a market stall, its silver surface glinting with his likeness. Rome has never placed a living man beside her gods before. To many it feels like the return of kingship, the very thing the Republic was born to destroy. You pass through the Senate, where men in togas gather in hushed groups. Their voices tremble with anger, with fear, with envy. Brutus, Cassius, Casca, names carried on whispers. They speak of liberty, of tradition, of the Republic gasping beneath Caesar's heel. They fear what he might do next. A crown on his head, his sons inheriting Rome, a monarchy reborn. Yet Caesar himself walks among the people with calm confidence. In the forum he greets veterans, in temples he makes offerings, in games he sits among the cheering crowds. His presence is magnetic, his voice low and certain. You stand in the crowd as he passes, the smell of incense heavy in the air, flower petals drifting down like snow. For a moment you feel what the people feel, safety, strength, destiny. But you also sense what the senators sense, that one man holds too much. The days grow tense. Omens fill the city. A soothsayer warns him. Beware the Ides of March. Birds fall dead from the sky. Sacrifices show strange patterns in entrails. Storms crash unexpectedly. Yet Caesar laughs them off, dismissing superstition with a wave of his hand. His confidence is armour, and it blinds him. On the morning of the Ides, March 15th, you wake to the chill of spring air. Caesar rises from his bed, hesitating only when Calpurnia, his wife, clutches his hand. She has dreamed of his statue bleeding, of the Forum echoing with wails. She begs him not to go to the Senate. For a moment he wavers, but then Decimus, a supposed friend, arrives to persuade him. The Senate waits, the people watch. He must not show fear. Caesar gathers his toga and steps into the street. You follow him through the Forum, the crowd parting, voices murmuring. Some bow, others glare. The steps of Pompey's theatre rise ahead, its portico grand, its walls echoing with history. It is here the Senate meets today, beneath the gaze of Pompey's statue, the man Caesar once defeated. The irony is thick, bitter in the mouth. Inside, the air is close, heavy with tension. Senators gather around him, their faces masks of courtesy. Caesar sits in his chair, the folds of his toga spilling around him. Papers are presented, questions asked. He leans forward, unaware or unwilling to believe what waits. Casca strikes first. A dagger flashes, cutting into flesh. Caesar gasps, turning in shock. Then others move, blades pierce. Again and again, a storm of steel in the chamber's dim light. Brutus is among them, his face pale, his hand trembling yet resolute. Caesar stumbles beneath the weight of betrayal, his toga stained red, his body pierced by more than 20 wounds. He falls at the base of Pompey's statue, the blood of one conqueror soaking the stone of another. Silence follows, thick and suffocating. The senators stand panting, their hands slick with blood. They claim liberty has been restored, that the Republic breathes again. Outside they expect cheers, but the people do not cheer. You walk into the streets and hear confusion, not celebration. Some weep openly. Others rush to barricade their homes. Veterans shout in anger, loyal to the man who gave them land and wages. Merchants whisper of chaos. Women clutch children close. Rome does not rejoice. Rome trembles. Days pass, the city torn by uncertainty. Caesar's body is laid on a bier in the Forum. You stand among the crowd as Mark Antony speaks. His voice rises rich and mournful, his words dripping with sorrow and fire. He lifts Caesar's toga, torn and bloody, each rent a wound visible to all. Gasps echo, sobs break loose. The people surge forward, grief turning to rage. Flames are lit. Caesar's body burned not in solemn silence but in fury. Mobs roam the streets, hunting the conspirators. Brutus and Cassius flee, their dreams of saving the Republic already collapsing. Antony maneuvers. Octavian, Caesar's adopted son, arrives, young and calculating. The city shifts again, the future uncertain. You walk through the Forum at dusk, the stones still warm from the funeral pyre. Ash drifts in the air. The smell of smoke clings to your clothes. Statues gleam in torchlight, but the air feels heavy, uneasy. Rome has lost her greatest general, her boldest leader, her most dangerous man, and in losing him, she has opened the gates to chaos. At night, you lie awake and think of his last breath, of the blades flashing, of the blood pooling on sacred ground. The Republic has been saved, but at what cost? You feel it in your chest. This is not the rebirth of liberty, but the beginning of new wars. Caesar is gone, but his shadow looms larger than life, stretching over every stone, every whisper, every dream of Rome. You wake to the creak of oars in the dark. The year is 31 BCE, and you stand among thousands in a Roman camp pitched on the coast of western Greece. The salty wind stings your face, carrying the smell of pine pitch, sweat, and smoke. Around you, men sit sharpening blades, whispering rumors. Some say Cleopatra bewitches Antony, that she rules him with her eyes. Others mutter that Octavian is weak without Agrippa. None know what the dawn will bring, only that it will decide the fate of Rome. The camp is restless, Fires burn low, casting long shadows on the ground. You hear the coughing of tired soldiers, the groan of ropes pulled taut across the ships. Above it all, the sea breathes, steady and endless, as if mocking the tiny quarrels of men. At first light, you march to the shore. The horizon bristles with masts. Antony's fleet looms large, more than 200 massive ships, some towering with decks 3 stories high, their prows bristling with bronze rams. Cleopatra's vessels glitter among them, their sails dyed purple and gold, a vision of luxury amid war. Octavian's fleet, smaller but swifter, waits in disciplined silence. Agrippa walks the decks, his voice low, his commands precise. You feel his confidence steadying your heartbeat. The signal sounds. Oars dip into water. The sea churns white. Trumpets blare. Drums pound. Voices rise in 1,000 cries. The two fleets surge toward one another, a storm of wood and bronze. The first clash is deafening. A Roman ship drives its ram into the side of an enemy, the impact shuddering through your bones. Men scream as planks splinter. Water gushes in. Bodies tumble into the sea. Fire arrows hiss overhead, striking sails that erupt in sudden flame. Smoke billows, choking, blinding. The air tastes of ash and salt. You fight not only with steel, but with terror. The sea swallows comrades whole, dragging their screams beneath the waves. Ships lock together. Decks become battlegrounds. You see men stabbed, hurled into water, crushed between hulls. Galleys burn, their crews leaping into foam, their armor dragging them down like stones. For hours, chaos reigns. The sun climbs high, its heat merciless. Sweat stings your eyes. Your muscles ache with every pull of oar, every thrust of sword. The sea becomes a graveyard, littered with broken masts, shattered shields, bodies floating face down. Then it happens. A ripple runs through Antony's fleet. Cleopatra's ships, moored at the rear, suddenly unfurl their sails. Bright purple catches the wind. Their oars slice the sea, and they turn south, fleeing the battle. The sight is like a spear in the heart. Confusion spreads. Did Antony order this? Is it betrayal? Antony sees and makes his choice. You watch him leap from his flagship into a smaller vessel, his cloak whipping in the wind. He follows Cleopatra, abandoning his fleet. The men stare in disbelief, their cries drowned by the clash of arms. The great admiral, their general, their leader, gone. Panic spreads, discipline unravels. Some ships fight on, desperate, proud. Others falter, oars dropping, sails sagging. Octavian's fleet surges forward, Agrippa pressing the attack. One by one, Antony's ships are surrounded, boarded, set aflame. The sea fills with wreckage, the cries of the dying echoing over waves. By dusk it is over. Smoke hangs heavy, the water black with ash. The horizon glitters with flames as Antony's fleet lies broken. Survivors drift on planks, their voices hoarse, their faces hollow. That night, the camp is quiet. Men sit in silence, staring into fires, too exhausted even to cheer. Victory tastes of salt and sorrow. You walk among them and feel the truth. This was not the death of an enemy. This was the death of the Republic. News spreads quickly. Antony and Cleopatra flee to Egypt, their fleet destroyed, their cause lost. In Rome, Octavian proclaims triumph. Senators bow, temples smoke with sacrifice, coins are struck with his face. He is hailed as the savior of the Republic, though all know the Republic has already died. You travel with Octavian's legions to Alexandria, the jewel of the East. The city shimmers under the desert sun, its harbour vast, its lighthouse a marvel towering into the sky. Streets are lined with colonnades, markets rich with spices and papyrus, scholars still whispering in the shadow of the library. Yet the air is heavy with dread. Inside the palace, Antony paces. His pride is broken, his body weary. Reports of desertions flood in. His allies vanish. His soldiers doubt. When Octavian's forces breach the city, Antony falls on his sword, the steel driving deep, his blood soaking marble floors. Cleopatra, proud to the end, prepares her own death. Draped in royal robes, she holds a basket said to hide Aspis. Whether snakebite or poison, the end is the same. She dies beside her throne, the last queen of Egypt, her beauty immortal in memory, her kingdom reduced to province. You walk through Alexandria after the fall. Roman banners hang from temples, soldiers patrol streets that once hummed with Greek and Egyptian voices. In the palace treasury, gold and jewels are carted away. In the harbour, Roman ships load Egypt's grain, destined to feed the hungry mouths of Rome. The age of pharaohs and Ptolemies ends in silence. Back in Rome, Octavian enters in triumph. The city explodes in celebration. Trumpets sound, incense clouds the air, sacrifices drip blood on altars. The people cheer, the Senate kneels, the forum roars. But there is no illusion. Octavian is no longer merely consul, no longer simply Caesar's heir. He is master. He takes the title Augustus, the revered one. He claims to restore the Republic. Yet every law, every decree, every legion bends to his will. Statues of him rise in marble, his name carved into arches, his face stamped on every coin. You stand on the Capitoline Hill at dusk, the sky deep red, the Tiber glimmering below. The air smells of smoke and laurel. Around you the people sing, their voices warm with triumph. Yet you feel the chill of something ending. The Republic, born of shepherds and huts, raised by law and blood, has died on the waves of Actium. The Mediterranean is now a Roman lake. Egypt is Rome's granary. Greece is subdued. Carthage is ash. No rival remains. And yet, in the stillness of evening, you hear a whisper. This is not peace, but transformation. Rome has survived, but not as a republic. She has become something else. An empire with Augustus at its heart. You breathe deeply. The air cool on your skin. You know you are standing at the hinge of history. Behind you, centuries of the Republic. Before you, centuries of empire. Actium was not merely a battle. It was the moment Rome changed forever. You wake to the sound of hammers ringing against marble. The year is 27 BCE, and Rome is a city reborn. Dust hangs in the air as scaffolds rise. Stone is hauled, columns lifted. The man once called Octavian now bears a new name, Augustus, the revered one. He speaks of restoring the Republic, yet everyone knows the truth. Power no longer lies in the Senate's hands, but in his. He holds the armies, the provinces, the purse. He governs as princeps, the first among citizens, but in reality he is emperor in all but name. Still, the people do not protest. They are weary of civil war, weary of brothers slaughtering brothers, weary of prescriptions of blood pooling in the forum. They crave stability more than freedom, and Augustus gives it to them. You walk through markets filled once again with grain from Egypt, olives from Spain, wine from Gaul. Families stroll without fear of riots. Children laugh in the Subura. The scars of the Republic's death remain, but they are covered now with marble and with peace. You wander the streets and see temples gleaming, roads straight and broad, aqueducts carrying water across valleys. Augustus rebuilds not only walls but the soul of the city. He boasts he found Rome brick and leaves it marble, and as you run your hand across polished stone you believe it. Statues of him stand tall, his face calm, his features youthful even as he ages. Every coin bears his likeness, every decree his seal. His presence is everywhere, silent, steady, eternal. The legions, once loyal to their generals above all, are reshaped. Veterans are settled in colonies across the provinces, their restless hunger turned into roots. You travel with them to Gaul, where new towns rise from the soil, Roman roads cutting across forests, Roman laws binding tribes into order. In Spain, fields once barren after war now ripple with wheat. In Africa, granaries overflow with grain for Rome. The empire expands not only through conquest, but through settlement, through administration, through the weight of order itself. Yet Augustus does not only rule with armies, he rules with myth. You hear poets recite verses in candle-lit halls, their voices soft and reverent. Virgil composes the Aeneid, weaving Rome's destiny from the ashes of Troy. Augustus painted as the fulfillment of divine prophecy. Ovid writes of love and transformation, Horace of discipline and moderation. Culture blossoms under imperial favour, art and poetry becoming tools of power as much as beauty. Religion shifts too. Temples to old gods are restored, but Augustus himself becomes sacred. The Arapacis, the altar of peace, rises with carved reliefs showing Rome's prosperity under his rule. You trace the marble with your fingers. Children, families, abundance. It is not only war that has defined Rome, but peace, the Pax Romana. For the first time in centuries, the Mediterranean is quiet. A Roman lake, pirates are hunted, rebellions crushed, borders secured. Still, shadows linger. In the provinces, resentment simmers beneath the order. In Judea, whispers of unrest echo through crowded markets. In Germania, tribes stir beyond the Rhine, restless under Roman presence. You march with legions into forests dark and endless, the air thick with pine and fog. At Teutoburg in 9 CE, disaster strikes, ambushed by Arminius and his warriors. 3 legions vanish into the mist, their eagles lost, their cries silenced by trees. The empire shudders, Augustus tearing his robes, crying aloud, Quintilius Varus, give me back my legions. Even in peace, the empire bleeds. In Rome, life continues. You walk through the Forum, the marble gleaming in sunlight. Senators still gather, but their words are hollow. Their gestures mimic tradition. Yet everyone knows decisions are made in Augustus's chambers. Power wears the mask of the Republic, but the mask is thin. You pass through the Suburra at night. Oil lamps flicker, shadows stretch across walls. The air smells of garlic and smoke. Families sit together, bowls of grain in their hands, grateful for cheap food from Augustus's granaries. Soldiers on leave laugh in taverns, their cups spilling wine. For ordinary people, life feels steadier than it has in generations. They do not mourn the Republic. They embrace the peace. You see Augustus himself in his later years, his hair thin, his face lined, yet his eyes remain sharp, his voice steady. He walks through his villa at Prima Porta, gardens blooming, frescoes bright. Around him gather Livia, his wife, and Tiberius, his heir. He speaks softly of Rome, of destiny, of eternity. He has ruled for decades, longer than any consul, any dictator before him. Children born at his rise are grey-haired now, knowing no world but his. In 14 CE, Augustus dies. You are there as the city falls silent. Crowds fill the Forum, tears on their faces, whispers on their lips. His body is carried through streets draped in mourning, his ashes placed in the mausoleum he built by the Tiber. Senators proclaim him a god, temples rise in his honor. His cult spreads across the provinces. He becomes not only Rome's ruler, but Rome's myth. The man who turned blood into marble, chaos into order, war into peace. You stand on the Capitoline Hill as dusk falls. The city glows with torchlight, its streets alive with voices, its temples shimmering in the night. The Republic is gone, yet the people no longer yearn for it. They have Augustus, and through him they believe they have eternity. The world is quiet now, the Mediterranean bound in Roman order, the Pax Romana stretching across continents. But you feel the truth beneath the stillness. No peace lasts forever. The seeds of ambition, the hunger for power, the fracture of loyalty still lie waiting. Yet for now Rome breathes deeply, its heart steady, its future secure. And you, standing in the calm of evening, feel the strange comfort of it. The long journey of the Republic has ended. The Empire has begun. You are safe now. The noise of armies fades, the cries of victory and defeat dissolve into silence. The clatter of shields, the roar of crowds, the whisper of conspirators, all of it drifts away, like smoke carried off by the wind. The long march of the Republic from shepherds' huts to Empire of Marble grows faint behind you. Breathe slowly. Inhale, feel your chest rise. Exhale, let it fall. With every breath, the weight of centuries slips further from your shoulders. The forum grows quiet. The Tiber flows gently, torches dim to embers, then to nothing at all. You are no longer standing on hills of Rome or fields of battle. You are lying still, warm, safe, wrapped in the softness of your own blankets. The marble and iron, the dust and smoke, the fire and shadows, they all blur and dissolve, until only calm remains. Think of the aqueducts, carrying not water now, but cool streams of rest into you. Think of Roman roads, straight and endless, not leading to war, but carrying you deeper into peace. Each step softer, slower, until you no longer walk at all. You are safe now. The empire fades. The voices fade. The world shrinks to the rhythm of your breath, the steady beat of your heart, the quiet comfort of knowing there is no battle left to fight tonight. Let the images dissolve, marble into mist, voices into silence, torches into stars. The past drifts far away, as though it never touched you at all. All that remains is rest. The story has ended. The journey is complete, and you here and now are safe. Sweet dreams.